You ready?
Good evening. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our regular bi-monthly town board meeting for Monday, July 10th, 2023. I call this meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. If you would all rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great job.
How do you guys hear me?
Well, we have a special presentation to start our meeting this evening, so I think we'll start with that, and then I'll read the agenda items after that, if that's okay with my board members.
Yep.
Okay, so we have special commendation awards presented to Daisy Troop 40264 members for donating their cookie sales to the Tuxedo Summer Camp Tuition Program. Will those scouts please rise and join Councilperson Maria May here in the front?
Okay, good. So just let me tell you a little bit what a commendation is. So a commendation is something that towns give to people when they have done something really, really great that has helped other people in town. And you, by donating the money that you raised for the cookie sales and donating it to the summer camp fund, you helped kids that might not be able to go to camp to go. So that's a really great thing that you did for the town.
Like if they didn't have much money.
Exactly. Some people might not be able to afford it, but you did. You helped. Isn't that awesome? So that's why you're getting this commendation, because the town of Tuxedo is very proud of you.
We also donated to the
Oh, that's
Wow,
great.
a double comment.
Yeah, exactly. So, are you Olivia? Hi, Olivia. So I'm Maria, and I am a town councilwoman, and this is Ken, and he is our supervisor. He's the one that does the money part. So I'm gonna call you, and when I call your name, you come here, and I give you your certificate and your Daisy. Okay, so Bataj Abushedi. You know?
Congratulations.
And here, shake, Mr.
Congratulations. Thank you so much for the children, helping the children.
Now steps.
Oh,
Dad,
her little
why don't you?
flower?
Yeah, oh yes, your flower. Here you go. Thank you. All right, Phoebe Fuller. Hi, Phoebe, congratulations. Here is your certificate,
Congratulations, Phoebe. Thank you so much.
and here is your Daisy. And Athena. Congratulations, Athena.
Congratulations, Athena. Thank you.
Here's your certificate and your Daisy. Oh, did I just get one already? And Abigail Clark. And Abigail, congratulations. Let me shake your hand.
Congratulations. Thank you for all your help.
And,
I think I see some future supervisors.
and Olivia Abruzzi. Congratulations, Olivia. Thank you.
Congratulations, Olivia. Thank you.
There you go. And you get the last Daisy.
And we'd also like to recognize the other scouts who couldn't make it here this evening. Charlie Evans. Thank you, Charlie. Arabella Hargroves. Isabella Humphrey. Raina Malik. Virginia Poteridis. And Jocelyn Stearns. Thank you to all of you and to all that lead our scouts. Thank you so much, and for the generosity and the hard work of the children. We really thank you. How about a round of- It's not often we get young people to town board meetings. Please come back again soon.
Thank you so much. Would you share that with me? Because I want to. I'm a creative too. By the way, the recreation department, and all of us also thank you. So, okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yes, thank you, yes, there you go.
So cute.
Yeah, I understand. We're done with cute kids.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, thank
Bye-bye,
you.
thank you.
Now to the real fun part of the meeting. Agenda items. We have 4 agenda items on the docket tonight. Resolution to accept Mary Harriman grant. Second is a resolution to appoint full-time police officers. Third is a resolution to establish camp employee hourly wage schedule. And fourth, a resolution to authorize bidding of the highway garage floor rehabilitation project. Any comment on agenda items? Nick?
I'm just curious, what is the rehabilitation of the floor in the highway department?
Jay, you've been handling that a lot, so would you mind answering Nick's question?
Yeah, absolutely. So the highway garage has got as it's not surprising, a cast concrete floor, reinforced concrete floor slab, which has radiant heat piping in it. Why that decision was made, I can't tell you. It's fine. It keeps things from icing up, but that's what it is. And it was put in some time ago. I want to say 20 years, something like that.
At least, right?
Over time, with wear of the trucks moving in and out, the surface of the slab has started to erode, which is also typical for that sort of slab. And we want to seal it and resurface it. It's an epoxy, penetrating epoxy sealer coating, which will restore the surface and prevent water, and especially salty water, from the trucks in the wintertime from getting into the slab and causing further damage. Because we want to make sure we get it before it starts breaking up and it starts breaking the radiant heat pipe. So it's maintenance.
So basically, they'll put another layer of concrete, or after they clean off what's there, they have to prep it first.
Exactly.
And then they'll pour another layer of concrete over that. And then after that, they will put that epoxy coating on top of the.
Exactly, although it's not going to be a complete concrete resurfacing. It's just going to be spot patching where it needs it before the, it's not that bad yet, fortunately. We looked at a number of options, and this seemed to be, in working with the town engineer and Rob, and this seems to be the most cost-effective solution for what we're looking at right now. Certainly.
Any questions on agenda items from our remote gallery? Could raise your hand or unmute yourself. And if a question comes up when we're dealing with an item, please feel free. We appreciate your participation. And then also we'll have 2 discussion items.
Oh, there is a raised hand.
Oh. I'm going to guess that's Evelyn. Is that you, Evelyn? You have to unmute yourself.
Yep, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Hi.
This is
I know,
comment on agenda items, though. Go ahead.
I know. Okay, so I don't really have comments on agenda, but how does somebody get something on an agenda to be discussed, which is what I sent you all today, unless that doesn't need to be an agenda item?
Well, you could circulate it through me, and yeah, that's not necessarily an agenda item, but
Okay, all
I'll
right,
share it with
okay.
the board for sure. Thank you.
Okie doke. All right, thank you. That's all I
Appreciate
wanted.
your
Okay, have a good.
participation.
Right. Yes, I'll be listening. I'll be here. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Great, thank you.
See you. Thank you. All
But
right.
to follow up with that, the way to get an item on the agenda is to bring it to the attention of one of the town board members or Marissa, or those are probably your two best options.
Sounds
We
right to
prefer
me.
that you don't tie a note to a brick and throw it through the front window.
That probably won't work. We'll also be discussing the proposed short-term rental local law that we're reviewing and investment options for the town and any other new business that comes before the board. And of course, we'll have our department updates, town board updates, minutes, vouchers, public comments, and the ever-popular adjournment. So let's proceed with our agenda. First item up for bid is agenda item number 1, resolution to accept the Mary Harriman grant. These aren't really very controversial. Accepting money, I'll read the motion. On a motion made by myself, I'll ask for a second in a moment, that the town board of the town of Tuxedo hereby accepts the Mary and Kathleen Harriman Foundation grant awarded to the Tuxedo Police Department in the amount of $3,500. I'll make a motion and I will ask for a second. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Maria May. That leaves the item open to discussion, first by board members and then later by the public, if they have any questions or comments. A little background on this. This is I believe it's an annual grant from a foundation, the Mary Harriman Foundation. Seems most interested in supporting local police departments in the area, and $3,500 is the allotment given to the Tuxedo Police Department this year. It's basically a no strings attached grant. They don't ask for any proposals of any kind, but just the money's allocated to the police department, and the town board takes recommendations from the chief of police as to how he feels it might be best utilized. Any other background knowledge on that? Carrie, was there any other supporting documentation that came with this? No. And they sent a check? Is that how it came?
And I know Marissa put the blurb that we received from email in your report.
Very good. Any further comment by town board members, other than a thank you to the Kathleen Harriman Foundation? We would like to acknowledge their generous support for police activity, police departments throughout the area. And certainly on behalf of the chief and the rank and file, we thank them for the grant. And if there's
Is
no,
there a specific project they usually use? I mean, it's annual. Do they put it towards any certain?
I don't remember what they used it for last year. I think it might have been for bulletproof vests, but I'm not really sure.
And I do know that the chief is contemplating trying to acquire some higher, more protective body armor
Yeah.
for the troops. The bulletproof vests that you see the officers walking around in are designed to stop pistol bullets. Out here in the sticks where Rob might come after you with a deer rifle, you need something heavier than that. And so that's the latest thing I've heard that they're contemplating.
Yeah, plus, the chief has been doing some really good work training our staff and actually other local municipalities in active shooters, drills, and preparing for the horrific potential of active shooters. Of course, we have the Ren Fair site, which is unfortunately a soft target, and they've been doing some really amazing preparation, and I know the chief is interested in adding to his equipment
Yep.
inventory of these body armor that can stop more of like an AR-15 type of a weapon. And so I know that's a high on his list of wants. So again, all in favor of accepting the grant? Aye. All right, agenda item number 2, also associated with our police force, the notion of hiring additional officers. So we actually have a resolution that encompasses hiring of 2 police officers. I'll make a motion and ask for a second that the town board of the town of Tuxedo hereby appoint Savino Citroniti as a full-time police officer, starting at a salary of $62,844. That's step one. He's fully completed his academy and has about a year's experience, a year and a half experience in Newburgh Police Department. And I spoke with him today, and we set a starting date for him of July 31st. And similarly, the town of Tuxedo was considering the appointment of Michael Tierney as a full-time police officer, starting at a salary of $73,342, which is step three, which is indicative of his 6 years of experience with the NYPD in their counterterrorism unit in Washington Heights. We've established a starting date for him of July 17th. So these are two, it was a very competitive process. I'm happy to say that we were able to entice both of these experienced officers to join our force. And I'll make the motion and ask for a second. Do I have a second on the first, for Mr. Citroniti?
I'll second.
Seconded by Michelle Lindsay. And also for Mr. Michael Tierney.
I'll second that one.
Okay, Mr. Reichgott, Deputy Supervisor. Now it's open for any discussion. Unfortunately, I don't have their resumes in front, but they were circulated. And unfortunately, the chief is still traveling from his vacation in Tennessee. But both officers did very well in their interviews, and the chief was thrilled that they both decided to accept employment with the town of Tuxedo.
And we're close to filling the third position as well,
Yes.
if I understand
Yes, we
correctly.
are.
So with the third, then we would have how many full-time, how many part-time?
Okay, let's, yeah, well, full-timers, we have Sergeant Russell. We have, well, we just lost Detective, I'm sorry,
Christian.
Sergeant Eichengreen. We just lost Detective Christian. We have Officer Gerard Shiloh,
Paul.
Officer William Hall,
And John Norton.
Lieutenant John Norton. And we have Officer Tia Frunze. And we have a full complement of part-time officers. So we,
Nine, so I'll have 9.
we'd have 8 officers and the lieutenant, and obviously Chief John Truzino. So I've made a motion. Any further comment or question? Ready to vote?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Look forward to actually swearing them in. Did we do any, set that as soon as they get their uniforms, I would imagine? Okay. So this town board has fulfilled its obligation, and, you know, we've been trying to work on this for quite some time, and it's a very competitive process. When the list came out, experienced officers such as these are sought after immediately, and very happy to report that we were able to secure these officers in our employment. So, very good. Agenda item number 3. I'll make a motion and ask for a second that the town board of the town of Tuxedo hereby approves the pay rate schedule for seasonal summer camp positions listed below. I'll make a motion and I'll ask for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Maria.
So the reason that we did this is because we wanted some, some, from year to year, some sense of constancy in how we pay the different levels of employment in the camp. So now we have that.
So we have recreation aid. Obviously, we're building this off of minimum wage, which fluctuates from year to year, so there's no specific dollar amount there. And I think 2.5% was intended to keep, trained,
Yeah.
experienced staff.
Right, so every year would be, added 2.5 to the salary that they made the previous year.
Great.
The 2.5 number.
2.5, sorry.
That's okay. The 2.5 number comes from more or less what the historical average increase is for town
For staff
employees.
members, yeah,
For
for,
town employees who are not otherwise under collective bargaining.
And these are all seasonal positions only
Yes.
for the duration of the camp. So. Lifeguards, $20 per hour. Water safety instructor, $25 per hour, and medical director, $25 per hour. And as Maria and Kathleen, and I'm sure anybody who's been connected with this project understands, it was very competitive trying to get lifeguards this year. I saw
Very.
something on the news that of the thousands of positions for lifeguards, they were really struggling to fill them. And
not only that, but lifeguards to work in our camp need to be lake certified. So it isn't just, it's your regular lifeguard, and then you have to have an extra training to be able to lifeguard in a lake.
oh, I did not
So,
know that.
yeah, so that was an extra step. We have two very seasoned lifeguards that have come back a few years, and so it was really good. And then we have a couple of new ones now that we just started this year.
Well, great.
Awesome.
Any further questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Maria. And Kathleen. Agenda item number 4, resolution to authorize bidding of highway garage floor rehabilitation project. Whereas the town board is in receipt of a bid package for the rehabilitation of the highway garage floor as detailed in the engineer's specifications included in the proposed bid packet. And whereas the town board is required by its procurement policy and by New York State General Municipal Law to solicit competitive bids for the work, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of Town of Tuxedo hereby invites bids for the highway garage floor rehabilitation project with a bid opening date of
July 28th at 10 a.m.
July 28th, 10 a.m., and directs the town clerk to post, advertise, and publish notice thereof. So I'll make a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Michelle Lindsay. Any discussion, questions? So, Marissa, this is published in the town's newspaper, Times Herald Record, on our website,
Both, yes.
and open to any qualified bidder. It's a pretty onerous process, but anybody who bids on municipal contracts understands what that process is. Rob, did you have anything you wanted to add about the floor or anything?
No,
Jay nailed it?
quite well. It's,
Thank you.
a lot of it is from salt also there.
Yeah.
That's eating up the concrete. Problem is, it's eating it down to such a point, if we let it go another year or so, it's gonna get down into the pipes that are the heating.
No, I understand, salt is bad news on
So
concrete.
the idea is to eliminate it, grind it down, encapsulate it, and keep salt from getting into the concrete again.
Okay, yeah.
It's just a proactive approach instead of waiting for something to happen, and we need a $300,000 floor instead of $100,000.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, that deals with our 4 items. We have 2 discussion items that I expect will take quite some time. I'd like to as quickly as possible, have oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Oh, under other business.
Yeah, other business.
Sorry.
Might as well move that forward, right?
Yeah, excuse me, other business to attend to. I'll make a motion, ask for a second, that the town board of the town of Tuxedo hereby appoints the 2023 summer camp employees following Orange County Civil Service rules and New York State guidelines to operate a summer camp. Their job titles, names, and pay rates are listed below. Juanis Casey, recreation aide. Casey, Juanis is the last name. excuse me.
Juanis, yeah.
Juanis. Reginald Juanis and Zachary Meyer, recreation aides and lifeguards at, recreation aides at a rate of $14.20 an hour and the lifeguard at $20 an hour. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that. So,
Please go ahead.
so the reason that our count just kept growing and growing and growing, we're up to 88 students, children now.
88 enrolled?
Yeah,
Wow.
88 enrolled, and even like within the first few days, we had like 5 new kids. So we have to have a certain ratio of counselors to kids. So we were lucky to find these 2. And then the lifeguard is only the other lifeguards that we have are counselors and lifeguards, but Zach is only just a lifeguard. So, and actually, he's also certified as aid, like a medical aid. So when our medical aid is absent, we actually have an arrangement where we can call him and he'll take over, which he did the first couple of days.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Howard has his hand up, I don't know.
Howard, did you have,
Yeah, I
I think
just
we
had
can
a
hear you.
question.
Please go ahead.
I had a question. I may have misheard, but I thought you said 14.20 an hour. When I read it, it's 14.63 an hour.
Right,
Yeah, it
on
was a mistake.
ours, we crossed it out and
Okay,
corrected it.
Sorry, that
Okay.
was my error, Howard. I handwrote
Okay.
wrote it in there.
Yeah, sorry, it is 1420.
okay, fine.
Thank you.
Yep.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And then we have a resolution to consider, this is a good one. Consider the proposal for the Ford F-550 with the dump, salter, and plow. Make a motion, ask for a second, that the town board of the town of Tuxedo hereby accepts the bid proposal for the Ford F-550 with the dump, salter, and plow submitted by Haley Brothers in the amount of $91,082.50. I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Seconded by Jay Reichkant. Open for discussion. Marissa, I was participating with you today in the bid opening. Maybe you want to just describe what the hustle and bustle of
Process, yeah.
opening one
The-
envelope?
The big one sealed envelope we received, yes. So the bid opening was today at noon. We opened the one bid, and that was the amount that was in the bid packet and from Healy Brothers. Nothing too exciting. No
Very good.
competition, unfortunately.
I think one of the good things is this truck is ready for delivery, and it's actually very difficult to get these vehicles at this time equipped in such a fashion. I think the price is very competitive, especially since there's no other trucks available. And we tried to go through both the government bid process and resulted in not having any inventory. So we went to an open bid process guided by our attorney, Howard Prater, and we did get this one bid. So the motion is out there. Any further discussion on this item?
Yeah, I guess, Carrie, we can start working with DASNY to see.
We already have that, we submitted it.
You submitted it? Okay, super.
All in favor? Aye. So Rob, this truck in particular I know it's a rather heavy-duty pickup truck that has both the plow and the spreader.
It's actually a Mason dump truck, a small dump truck.
So it's able to get up some of the smaller roads that you couldn't get one of the bigger trucks up? Is that part of it?
It's, if everybody sees what we drive in, normally white and black, little Mason dumps, it's one of those.
Great.
It's going to replace the 350, the 06 350 that we have now. And the other 250 we were talking about, replace the 08 350 that needs a transmission.
Okay. Well, we understand the truck is ready for delivery, and you guys could go pick it up. Nick, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious, I'm not familiar with the vehicle. I like automobiles. And why
I know
haven't
you do.
gone into that. This is a used vehicle?
Oh, no, 2023,
Oh, okay.
brand new vehicle,
Oh, okay.
with the plow, spreader. Yeah.
But, you know, give them to this time next year, it'll look used.
Maybe Rob will let you drive it around the parking lot, I don't know.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for pointing those two items out. So, we have, Kathleen is here this evening, our recreation coordinator, and might as well turn the floor over to you. I think you wanted to give us your first update on how things are going. And
Yes.
please go ahead.
I think everything's going well. We started camp, we were on day 4 today. We had some, I would say the only kinks we had to iron out are we've put everything on an app. It's called B Clutch, and it's gonna take probably a week or two. The biggest problem is that we don't have Wi-Fi in the building. So the whole point was to put everything on our phones, and that's not working out right now. So we adapted a little bit today. We have the counselors out there on the walkway with walkie-talkies and clipboards and sheets that designate who can pick them up and who can drop them off. So everything that was happening on the app, we're just, have pen to paper and walkie-talkies right now. So I know a lot of parents were frustrated. They had to get out of their cars, walk up that entranceway, which I understand, a lot of grandmothers too and grandfathers. So it's not what the start we wanted, but that was, I think, the only glitch, and we're working on it. Jay was just speaking about possibly, and Maria had been working on getting a hotspot.
Yeah.
Maria spoke to the library, and a parent has offered to bring one, although that was supposed to be 2 days ago, and that hasn't happened yet. So, like Maria said, we're up in the high 80s. We had our first field trip to Breakpoint Bowling in West Haverstraw, which is a beautiful new redo there, and I think the kids had a great time. We took 55, and as far as WeWa, that's working out great. We had water safety instructors assess the swimmers. They were back for the second day today, and everybody who wants to swim out to the dock can't swim out to the dock, but safety first. So I believe we have another trip to the castle this Friday, and we're just trying to get through the whole Wi-Fi issue and the app, and doing what we can to make it easier on the parents. But I think the kids are having a good time. The school has been great. The weather's been pretty good.
How'd your fishing derby?
Fishing derby was very successful, mostly in part to Marissa's hard work. I was sort of a back seat because camp was starting. It wasn't the best date, but it was the one that worked out because there were 25 kids there with their parents and babies and strollers, and the people at the Watchtower. Maria was there, Marissa was there, Jay was there. Did you catch anything, Jay? You left early. Were you upset?
Yeah, I was very frustrated with my lack of fishing skills.
I was the fish measurer, There were some big fish. There were like 15-inch fish in some of them.
There were some big bats in there. But I thought the Watchtower is fantastic. Those people couldn't be more welcoming and putting out the spread of food and everything they did. But hopefully I'll be a little more involved next year.
And
Thank you,
also, I
Marissa.
have to,
Thank you,
one of
Marissa.
the things that I have to thank Travis from the Highway Department, because because the weather's been so warm, we had to get fish that would withstand warm waters. So that's bass and, what is it? Crabbies, yeah, and perch. And all the fisheries around here had trout. So we had to drive all the way to Pennsylvania, like to Ames Lake Ames or whatever, to get the fish that would be happy in that pond. And so Travis did that right the night before. So thank you, and tell Travis thank you, and really thank you also to the people from the Watchtower, because they were so hospitable and, you
Well,
know.
you wrote a letter, didn't you?
I did.
Why don't you read it into the
Oh,
record?
sure. I said, Dear Mr. McDaniel, the Tuxedo Town Board and Recreation Department would like to extend with gratitude and appreciation to you, Ray Shirley, David and Anna Willis, Tehran and Shamara Powell, and everyone at the Watchtower for hosting our 2023 Town of Tuxedo Fishing Derby on July 8th. It was a wonderful event for our children and families. We appreciate you making your facilities available to us, particularly the Watchtower Fire Pond. We also appreciate your hospitality, lunch, enthusiasm, and all-around help with this event. Everyone who attended had a really fun and rewarding experience. So they were really helpful. They were like trying to get the fish measured, and I think they were having fun too. So, but
Fantastic.
it's important to thank the people who do things for us. So.
Thank you, Kathleen. I guess I'll proceed with the rest of the department updates. Highway, move from my left to right.
Highway. Well, today, as everybody knows, yesterday we had quite the rainstorm. We were cleaning drains, sweeping roads, cleaning up. For the most part, we didn't have any serious road damage or serious repairs that needed to be completed. Mostly just cleanup, general cleanup, which we have after certain thunderstorms as it is. So but we're still patching up in Laurel Ridge. We will get to Nick soon. You're on the schedule there, to Patterson Hill and all the other roads that we've kind of neglected to finish up Laurel Ridge. But we're patching, still cutting grass, keeping the fields mowed, sides of the roads, all that. Mulch is still a quarry field for anybody that's looking for it. Compost, that's what we got going on. Dirt pile, we've, the end dump was returned today. They picked it up. All the dirt that had to be moved this year has been moved, waiting for the screener to be delivered this week. So, and the more I look at what's left to do, I don't think it's all going to get done this year. We did some test holes where we thought was kind of close to grade. We're about another 15 feet or so below that. So where you come in kind of and it's flat, yeah, that kind of drops off and it sort of follows the contour of the wall. So as you go back towards the pump house, you know, the little blue pump house back there, yeah, about 15 feet, and it was all stumps and logs and garbage that the DEC is looking to remove.
So I think you being modest in the amount of work that's happened. Well, first of all, when I left my home this morning about 9 o'clock to try to survey the damage that one would anticipate after a storm, you guys were literally all over town, starting in Laurel Ridge, clearing drains and pipes, and they were on it from Minute One, and saw him down here in the East Village, and so I don't think you could have got on it any faster. And for the work at the, what we're calling the dirt pile, wow. I mean, it's amazing how much you guys have moved already this season, a mountain. And now we have the large pile of rocks that you and I have been discussing, maybe crushing or something like that.
Well, that's my thought. Now, the idea was we were gonna get a crusher, crush the rock and then get, but my thought is we're gonna screen, because I can crush in the wintertime.
Okay.
I can crush in the bad weather. I can crush in the rain or light snow and stuff like that. I can't screen.
Right.
So, let's get the screening done and then we'll deal with the crushing.
That's great.
And then we'll crush 2 years worth of rock instead of, one, so.
Great progress. Thank you so much. Thanks to the team. Some questions?
Elise Fuller, 40 Circle Drive. I would like to know when and how the town is going to be dealing with the flooding issues that we've had in our neighborhood now for almost 2 years.
Well, what I believe is the flooding issue came from a private residence that caused the damage, what I believe. I think we were there 3 or 4 times on this site. He was told what he had to do to clean it up. If he hasn't cleaned it up, the town is not gonna clean up his property or stop that. As far as the berms go that you wrote that we never put up, we did put up berms by your house. You know we did.
Sorry, where are the berms?
We put berms along the side of your house last year. We put berms down the whole thing.
Not last year. no.
Last year. We made a point to go there last year, because last year you had problems with your neighbor again, of flooding coming into your house last year. This year you didn't even get rain in your house, so the berms had to work.
Yeah, there wasn't enough rain yesterday, but it was still overflowing into our property.
Wait a minute, you said there wasn't enough rain yesterday?
There wasn't enough rain yesterday. It was overflowing in the storm drain off of the property. It was being expunged off the entire property pretty much, and it was starting to trickle down on the inside of the curb.
Now, that's his responsibility to maintain on his property or to proper drainage. It's not the town's responsibility to keep his water on his property.
So where's the building inspector in all of this?
He's not here tonight.
Well,
Don't know, there's a new building inspector. I'm sure he's been brought abreast of the situation, so to speak, and I'm sure he'll get there within the next day or two, because it was a hot issue, being how it rained last night.
So I will tell you that yesterday I had footage, I had video of the berms not working.
Okay, we can't,
In addition, the drainage, which I understand is the town's responsibility, the drainage system in front of that property it doesn't have great enough capacity.
Bob, could you describe what you did up road? I know you replaced lines for the sewer system, but also diverted the stormwater drain.
right, into an overflow drain that the town had put in years ago. They discontinued a steel line that is way above you. Steel line that goes underneath 2 driveways, people's house, front yards, and parallel with the sewer line. They rerouted it with a plastic 2.5-foot drain line. So that's working fine. That puts the water back into the ditch, because you're talking about runoff from the mountain lake, up by the ball field, all of that comes down behind your house. Now, Mr. Neighbor there rerouted a lot of that stuff when he was digging around his house. He removed pipes from his property.
How is that allowed?
How is that allowed? Well, he removed them. How is that? It's not allowed. It's not allowed.
Nothing.
Well, that's not my responsibility now. That's somebody else's responsibility. Maybe code enforcement. Maybe code enforcement's not here, now we have a new one. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, I would want you to know that it wouldn't be accurate to say no action was taken, because we had the town engineer there several times. Me, if I may finish. So I know it's frustrating, absolutely, and I think what we could consider is possibly building up the curb. I think that's one of the things that you seem, correct me if I'm wrong, was suggested, because that's the proper word.
What would also be helpful is from that report that the engineer filed, which I know he filed, there were many good suggestions in it. None of those actions have been taken.
Have you done any work on your property to relieve the fact that the
My husband-
grade slopes directly to your house? Have you created a swale along your property to divert the water before it reaches your house?
The water comes on the inside of the curb.
What I asked is if you regraded your property, because the last time I was there, which granted was a year ago, your yard slopes directly from the curb to your house, and you have a basement window that has 0 clearance above grade.
My property, since 2005, since we've lived there, did not flood until the work was done.
Right, that's the work on your neighbor's property, which we have already had a previous building inspector talk to him about. And I will have our current building inspector review it if he hasn't already. But as a property owner, you also have a responsibility to maintain your own property to divert stormwater.
My husband's worked on diverting the water directly at the top, next to the neighbor's driveway, which is where some of it is coming from. Most of it is coming from the road because the stormwater system is inadequate. The stormwater system is the responsibility of the town. I have footage from yesterday. The stormwater system is the responsibility of the town. You're talking about acting up the hill, replacing things up the hill. In my time living at this home and owning this home, the other branch of this street that is on the neighbor's property drains into a separate section that goes out into Circle Field. That was replaced. The town replaced that.
Yes, they did, because the ball field in the front of your house used to flood.
The ball field floods now.
Not
From
like,
the other stretch of it.
not like it did, and no, it doesn't, because that goes behind the houses, behind everybody's house on Schoolhouse Road, to the school and underneath the school down to the drain. And it's a concrete pipe, 3-foot concrete pipe. It's more than adequate to handle the overflow that comes off the mountain, along with the other side. What's happened is somebody's diverted, let's say diverted what went on there, and now you have a problem. The situation is not caused by the town. It's not because the town doesn't take care of the drainage. It's because you have a neighbor that doesn't want to deal or be responsible. And that's the crux of the matter. And the town is limited on how much I can fix. I am not going to remove and dig up behind everybody's house, put in a bigger pipe for that. I can't do that. That would be irresponsible for me and for the town.
Let me interject, if I may. We have our town attorney on screen now. Howard, would you consider meeting with our code enforcement officer to evaluate this current situation?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
Would that be a field examination? Do you want to,
Yeah, probably.
so start?
I want him to look at the records first and then meet me out in the field and tell me what he thinks. Yep.
And Ms. Fuller, if you would share the video that you have, it would be helpful.
Sure. I shared the video from nearly 2 years ago with you. Nothing was done.
Well, again, I won't say nothing was done. I personally went to the site at least 3 times.
No action.
Okay, well, that is action, going to examine the situation. Okay, I'm not gonna argue with you about it.
Remedy.
But you said you'll share the video, and I'm asking the town attorney to work with our code enforcement officer.
I'm gonna talk to Chris tomorrow, get this on his hot list.
So, I'll follow up on that for you.
I'm also
Thank you.
going to say that I don't appreciate not receiving responses to my inquiries. My family has been at risk, my home has been at risk, as have my neighbors. I have emailed you multiple times. I received a letter from the attorney saying, take it up with my neighbor, when there are clearly town responsibilities that work here as well. You're public servants, it's a courtesy to reply to an email. I'm not filing a lawsuit here. I realize you're concerned about litigation and whatnot. Am I filing a lawsuit? No. I would like help.
I'll reach out to you tomorrow, Howard. Thank you. I'm gonna pass the baton to
Wait, Nick had some.
Nick.
I had a question, with all the rain that we had like 5 to 8 inches of rain, and I'm not sure if Rockland County and Orange County was considered any disaster by Kathy Hochul.
Yeah, they were considered. I saw both. I saw her order and I saw Schumer's order today. And Schumer's, Gillibrand, yeah.
Can the town apply for some type of assistance?
Yeah, I mean, we have to have damages that would file for, considering with the sewer plant, what we might be able to accomplish.
I would think you can.
Also, Senator Skoufis just passed a law, S 521 something. I can find out for you, for insurance companies to be quick about responding to damage caused by this storm, because Orange County got the brunt of this storm, whereas, you know, other places didn't get it as bad.
No, because of the water coming off some of the steep mountains, the roads, whatever small holes you had, just opened up. These just washed out parts of roads. So it isn't business as usual. I don't think it would be.
Right, although I don't believe that we had that much road damage. Yeah. I mean, we got about 4 and change inches that Sterling Forest did. West Point,
Visit me.
okay.
Visit me.
Town clerk.
Good evening. I don't have anything earth-shattering to report. I do want to point out on page 9, under the public comment section, I inserted what Evelyn had sent out. It kind of coincides with rainfall and keeping track, and something she suggested, so
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay. I would suggest that we maybe table the rest of the report so we can go into the discussion item of proposed short-term rentals, because that could take a while. And I think there's some people that might be interested in that. So I'm going to make that the next agenda item. Jay, did you want to get us started on that discussion?
Yes. I think attached to the back of your package or on the table is a copy of what I sent everybody yesterday. Like I said before, I apologize that it came out on Sunday afternoon. But what this is I collected up the comments made by all the board members and the public and inserted it into the draft model law that Howard and his assistant gave us. places where people made specific revisions to text, I included in the text. It's highlighted, so, I mean, it's tracked change, so you'll be able to see that. Places where there was just more of a sort of a general question or comment, I put it in a comment in the side because there wasn't text to activate. I tried to collect I tried to get everything in there. If I missed something, I apologize, and let's bring it up as we go along.
Okay.
What I will say is mostly, there aren't that many changes suggested. As much as I hate to read every line, perhaps that's the best way to do it, or at least to work our way through.
I think that will also help engage the public, but go ahead, Michelle.
I'm just wondering, could you put that up on the screen so people could follow along?
I
Would that be
cannot,
easier?
I, I don't know if anyone else here has that current ability. I mean, I can take this and
Let's-
hold it up, but it will not. So
I can get Ken's laptop if you want me to.
Do you think that would help people to follow along, or?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure. Okay, then you have your laptop
I
available?
think Marissa was about to grab it.
Yeah, I can get Ken's laptop.
Okay,
Okay, I was just gonna,
so then,
I only had mine open because obviously I deleted some things which didn't show up as a comment,
if you
it's
deleted some things, then it's deleted.
Right,
I mean, it's
right,
lined
right.
out. It's
Right.
still here, but it's
As-
lined out.
Oh, okay.
And this isn't a draft
Right.
ready to share with our website, it wasn't posted on our website.
Right.
Right, so is that okay to share in this form?
Sure.
It's okay to share with, just people should be clear that this is a working draft. So
Right.
it is not.
Was Howard sent this as well?
Howard was not, but his assistant was. Howard has recused himself, because he's an evil timeshare owner, landlord person.
Even though I'm the evil one, the version that's in the minutes doesn't seem to be a track change version. So the changes that you're mentioning don't seem to show up in what I'm looking at anyway.
Um,
Oh, you can't see this.
the version that was in the draft minutes didn't have all of the changes highlighted. So,
But what Marissa is going to share might be that version?
yes,
Okay, good.
Oh, right.
Oh, I see, the one earlier didn't have.
right,
things
the
that-
one,
Okay,
yes,
got it.
there were some flaws in that one.
So this is the better one to work.
That's the one, yes.
Okay, then I can close this now. I was just trying.
Yeah, whatever you like.
Yeah.
So maybe we could refresh all of our memory. Where did the general notion of this chapter 20 rental short-term come from? I think this was modeled after something other towns have, a village maybe, I think it was one of the towns.
So there have been several, this is model language that was given to us by Howard's firm based on laws that they have written for other towns and villages. I don't know if this was adopted in this form by any other. As a point of information, it's not 20, it's XX as in put number here.
Oh, okay, thank you.
We already have a chapter 20. This has come out of concerns that residents have expressed based on some of the existing short-term rentals
That have kind of popped up.
that have popped up, and we have no no code about it at this point at all, except that they're technically not allowed, although that's a very weak prohibition. And for people following at home, rental short-term is what more commonly known as Airbnb, or I guess they have competition now in a company called Vrbo.
VRBO, yeah.
And there are probably others. But these are properties that are rented for a couple of days for transient people to basically come and use it as a a vacation home. And this is absolutely different than hotels, bed and breakfasts, which are a particular form of lodging. And this is not addressed to people who own a property and are renting it to a family for a long-term kind of use.
Howard, as our attorney, did you want to add anything to that setup of this activity?
No. I think Jay set it up appropriately. This is a variation on hotels and other types of short-term accommodations. You know, historically, towns typically would face the issue of boarding houses or other types of like SROs, short-term, occupancy issues. Those types of things have evolved, particularly in the countryside, into short-term rentals where people are devoting a piece of their property, piece of their house, or a property they own, separate from their house, either a guest cottage or a barn or just even another residence, and devoting that to short-term rental use.
Thank you. So we're going to do a little read aloud.
We can do a read aloud. We can simply,
Keep
I
everybody on
can,
the same page, so to speak.
yeah, or, I mean, I can also, I mean, everyone's had a chance to read it on the board, obviously.
Yeah.
I can sort of move us along to we can skip over the parts that everybody
Agreed. Right.
agrees to, unless we want to go back to it. I think that'll be a better use of the time. So, in the legislative intent section, the first section, in section B, which is to protect and preserve the town's appropriately balanced commercial and residential nature and unique tranquil neighborhood character as enacted by the town's zoning, subdivision, property maintenance, related local laws. Ken attached a comment to this section suggesting that we consider, yeah, excuse any language that says should or must or any of that, take that as theatrical. Suggest limiting this use to zones where hotels or bed and breakfasts are permitted, which also goes down later on in the page to what properties are eligible. And
What zones would that be, do you think?
that would
General
only be
business?
general business, it would be general business, possibly neighborhood business, hamlet, business district, tourism.
Oh, yeah, right.
So we could do that, but all of the sort of basic premise of these short-term rentals is people are renting a piece of their property, either their entire house or an outbuilding or something like that. And all of the uses for hotels and bed and breakfasts are in non-residential zones. So it doesn't mesh with the model of the use. But
So even if we'd like to,
Well-
if they're non-residential, that's not what's actually happening in reality.
that's not what's actually happening. These are not bed and breakfasts, which is essentially a small hotel. At least as a working description, or hotels. They are pieces of houses.
Right, and later on, we're limiting the number of people that can stay and
Yes,
the number of cars that they could have and things like that. So it's us to not disturb people that, live in a residential area.
right. And I would say that we should skip a bit and go down to chapter 4A, which are eligible properties and structures, because this kind of goes along with that, I think. And it says,
Oh, okay.
all right, so X-4A, halfway down this page. Eligible properties and structures.
Under the heading eligibility.
Yes, correct. The first item under eligibility.
Marissa? That would be, you'd have to
I'm sorry,
scroll up.
scroll down. There.
Okay, and then we can go back to the other
Then,
section.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll go,
Yeah,
keeping with this thought about zones.
yeah.
Eligible property instructors, permits shall only be issued for one single-family detached dwelling per lot. No more than one short-term rental permit shall be approved for any lot. For lots containing more than one structure utilized as dwellings, one structure may be permitted as a short-term rental where the other structure is the permanent residence of the permit holder occupied on a non-transient basis. That says, so if I have two buildings on my lot, I can use one as a short-term rental while I'm living in the other one. And the reason I jumped down to here was two things. First, about zoning. My recommendation, because part of the issue and the concern that we've had from residents is having an Airbnb too close to their property. And again, if I say Airbnb, I mean short-term rental. This is like Kleenex, right? Anything you blow your nose in is a Kleenex to the detriment of the brand copyright on that thing. My suggestion would be limiting this use to CR1 and R2 zones, C being conservation,
Which is 4 acres.
which are 4 acre or larger lots, R1, which is 2 acre and larger lots, and R2, which is 1 acre and larger lots, which there may be outlier lots in those zones that are smaller, which would be eligible, but by the nature of the zoning and the division, it helps spread this out.
And then the other comment was,
Well, yeah, I'll mention it because I
yeah, okay,
wrote
it's
it.
yours.
Okay. It says here, permits shall only be issued for one single-family detached dwelling per lot. I don't see anything considering condos, apartments, co-ops, and,
I combined two of your comments, so
okay.
stop there. So, again, I think that limiting this to single-family homes or a sub-building of a larger lot, which is gonna be this, I would very much not like to own half of a duplex and have the other half be a short-term rental. That's right on top of you all the time. I think that condos in the sense of, small apartment type buildings or even larger apartment type buildings, it's the same thing. I don't think, and this has been a problem in New York City, this has been a problem in other municipalities where someone owns a number of apartments in a building and essentially is creating an off-the-books hotel by renting those out on a short-term basis, some of them even nightly. Again, this is, we're not passing this law tonight, and if we suddenly get a flood of people who say, hey, I live in the East Village and I really think it'd be a great idea to do this, or, I'm in the Woodlands and I really want to rent out my townhouse, we can look at that. I think.
Right, I mean, right now, it's town board discussion, which would lead to public hearing and
Yes.
multiple opportunities for public comment.
Yep.
Also, as a person, I mean, honestly, looking for the side of the person staying, last summer, my daughters and I stayed in this place by the beach. That was an old house, and it was a beautiful old house, but, there were like 3 different people in there. And then you could hear like door slamming, and we had to keep our dog like super quiet because, so it was not optimal for us as guests to be in that situation as well. Being in apartments within a big house, particularly because it was an old house, and, it was noisy, and, so that might make the experience for the person staying also not so great.
with condos, I assume the the Woodlands has their own HOA rules.
Rules, yeah.
And, what is it called up by you in Southfield?
Oh, Tuxedo
Tuxedo Heights.
Yeah.
They probably have their HOA rules. How does that work with town rules? I mean,
Town
can we
rules can-
override
no.
those?
Well, there's a Howard question, but no, and specifically, we do not. So first of all, we're not allowing them in those, they're not single-family houses.
Right.
Theoretically, when Tuxedo Farms is up and running, it will be single-family houses and may or may not be eligible, but one of the requirements is that if there's an HOA or a condo board or any of those things, you have to demonstrate that their rules, the rules of your enclave allow this. That's part of the application.
I would just add to that, the town rules will apply. If you permit it under conditions, that doesn't mean that a property owner who is subject to an HOA that has other rules, that property owner still must comply with all of the HOA rules as well. So if the HOA doesn't allow it, even though you get a town permit for it, you're not going to be able to do it because you will be in violation of the HOA rules.
Okay.
And the law
And the
further
vice
on in the application, if the HOA doesn't permit it, then the town will not issue you a permit.
Right. Similarly, if you have restrictive covenants on your land that would prohibit it in some fashion, the town's not going to be able to be in a position to issue a permit for it. The town would just not do that.
So I'm an engineer, I'm not a lawyer, but the town will give the ability in these areas, will give it's an allowable use, but there are other laws, other rules that may prohibit a particular property from being used for. We good here?
Yeah.
All right, so then I would jump back up, sorry. I just wanted to get there while I was thinking about zoning. To XX3A, permit required and prohibited rentals. Okay. So A, it shall be unlawful for any person to rent or offer to rent a short-term rental within the town of Tuxedo without first obtaining a short-term rental permit. And then there was the comment, and I'm not going to try to attribute comments. Some of them were made by several people, and I'll probably have the wrong name anyway, so bear with me. But the language recommended to be added was that it would be renewable annually. That's the first comment, which sounds eminently reasonable to me.
Yeah, I think I was the one that said that.
Yeah.
Because that's the way that it is in like most, like Warwick and all the other places I looked. Every year you have to renew.
Every year you have to renew your permit. I agree. And then there was, from several different people, that rentals shall be limited to a certain number of days per calendar year. And I've put this in as 3 X's. That's not 30. That is, there was a range from, 90 to 280.
And yeah, and the idea behind that, I was one of the ones that put that in, is that it wasn't a continual every weekend or, some people are out and new people come in and a revolving door. So it would be, that's why it's limited.
Give the neighbors a break.
Yeah.
Right. I know that some municipalities also have this, as Howard pointed out, because they want to make sure that they're not in conflict with their other hotels, motels, things like that, which we don't have.
Right.
I'm going to argue for the trees because they can't speak for themselves, so to speak, and say if I wanted to have one of these properties and was using, there are very legitimate reasons why people have these sorts of arrangements. Either they're looking for the income, or they like, especially if, they're not absentee, they're, renting out a piece of their house. They like meeting new people every day. I'm not sure that there isn't a reason. I would argue against limiting it based on those considerations.
The other thing too, about the limiting too, is that if you're asking them to pay a certain amount of money annually, and then you're saying, but, you know, you can only rent it so many days, it might not actually be feasible for them. I mean, there are people that, you know, they have a home and then they have another home that they use as an Airbnb. In the case in, one of the cases in town, that is the case. A person lives in Tuxedo Park and they have a place in Clinton Woods. So, you know, I mean, it seems, I kind of agree with you, Jay, there. But I do think that they should be renewed and pay a fee every year.
So it's your position that they could rent it 365 days a
I
year?
mean, I don't think they will rent it. Most Airbnbs only rent in the summer, maybe a week or so at a time, but most of the time it's long weekends and things like that. I don't know. I mean, I feel like.
So that seems more leaning towards, not an imposed limit, but you're saying that's typically what happens. So I'm not understanding how that's punishing to somebody I don't want to punish the neighbors, which
Right,
would be
right.
me, okay? And that's not enticing to me.
Well, I think it
I
has to
think-
be
I think-
ample enough
So-
days.
Well, 180 is half
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah, I would say it has to be ample enough
Okay.
so that
Yeah.
it's feasible.
I mean, I said 100, but just as a, you know, suggestion, you know, 50 weeks, 52 weekends a year, you know, somewhere around 100.
Right.
Okay, I don't
But-
think the goal here is to resolve all this, but to air what our
Right.
thoughts
Yeah,
are.
absolutely. So then I'm gonna say,
So then
we should,
we're divided
to a s-
on that.
well,
issue.
we're still discussion. I
Right.
would say that I would then offer the homework that says, so if you've got a number in mind, then exactly what Michelle just did. Why is that number what it is? So that we can have a discussion and, because what I'm hearing is that the idea of having a number that's less than 365 days and 366 on leap years is something that people think is a good idea.
Well, one of my
Hello?
questions is, this is town board discussion, just so you know, so, if you're
But we'll
looking to
take
comment.
Comments at the end, I think.
I
Yeah,
think
are we
that's-
able to comment?
No, not now, no.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, we're just gonna
Yeah, no,
have a cacophony.
I agree,
of
I agree.
comments.
We
This
should-
is for our discussion. There will be public hearings, and absolutely, we'll open it to the floor. But first, the town board has to.
Absolutely,
this,
absolutely.
just so you know. One of my things is, what's in it for the homeowner? You know, at least if you split it 50-50, 180 days, I'm saying, okay, you got yours, I got at least peace of mind for 180 days out of a year. I mean, if I end up with a short-term rental on every side of my home, I mean, what's the enticement for the homeowner who invested? What's in it for me? Pretty much nothing, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if it's ample enough days, like 180 days or, you know, some amount, like not just saying, you know, 50 days or something.
Oh, no.
Like, wait,
All right. Good, let's,
Well, you know, it also discourages the corporate kind of model that would be renting 390 days a year if there was such an animal.
Right.
So, no, I'm not really hot on that notion, to be honest
Okay.
with you.
all right,
And that comes back also to the, a natural person and the eligibility.
Right.
Like that explained a little bit.
that is the next one, which is the permit holder shall be a natural person.
And
And
that is,
Letter B.
4B.
4B, right, next sentence down. And there has been some suggestion that we might want to allow LLCs or corporations. Howard, what's a natural person?
That's a human being.
Okay. Someone that you can actually go find and punch in the nose.
Somebody that has a nose, yes.
They don't, in the nose area.
So does that exclude corporations and LLCs?
Yes, they're not natural persons.
Okay.
But that's why they're listed separately there. It shall be a natural person, LLC, or corporation.
Yeah, but I wrote that in.
Okay,
Like,
yeah,
the
well, I'm
model
just
that you
look-
gave was natural person only. Some people
Yeah.
suggested that we should allow that.
Okay,
I'm gonna say that if I was gonna have, in the interest of full disclosure, I have no interest in staying in there in short-term rentals like this or having one, because for a number of reasons, not the least of which is every time I go to a bed and breakfast, I feel like I'm in my mother's friend's house. I don't know where to put my feet. I like having a hotel room. But if I was going to do this, I would establish an LLC for the liability disconnect.
Right.
So,
And I was gonna say, there are people now who put their homes for tax reasons, for age reasons, whatever, as an LLC.
the
So-
next law about rentals that we'll be looking at, I decided not to try to put it in this, will be about long-term rentals and registries and caretakers and whatnot, but
Right,
one
right.
step at a time.
But, yeah.
Well, is there a reason to include corporation, or could we not include corporation and still achieve what you had said you would like to achieve with an LLC?
That's a lawyer question. We should
Okay.
float that. I don't have to set up an LLC. I could set up a corporation if I wanted to. And there are different,
But it's more likely, people more often, create LLCs for their homes, not corporations.
yeah, possible.
And we're talking mostly residential, right?
So
Yes.
maybe could we just put in LLC and, and wait for somebody to say, hey, we want to establish a corporation?
We could, but we would prefer not to have to go back and
Yeah.
redo the whole local law. So I'd say, let's flag this as homework for the lawyers and tell us.
yeah, there's no benefit of having one, there's a benefit to having just natural person. But as between LLC and corporation, there's no benefit to distinguishing those.
Howard, I have a question. If an LLC has the name of a person that is, whatever, is that the whole point? I don't know that much about LLCs, but could it be that like a person is attached to it so that, that person is responsible for, what we don't want is, like not to know who to go to.
Well, you
when
can,
There's a problem.
yeah, that's two different things, Marie. Under the law that's you're discussing, whether the property is owned by an LLC, a corporation, a natural person, or whatever, in every case, there has to be a viable person named for responsibility and to manage it and to be the point of contact for getting things done, both to the tenant and for the town. So that there's always going to be a natural person that is going to be on the hook for making sure the property remains in compliance.
I think that comes
Chapter
under
5.
section 5, yeah.
Yep. Okay, skipping a couple of bits where no one had comments. So this is chapter 4, subsection C, there on the end of the page. Multiple permit eligibility. A permittee may hold no more than one short-term rental in the town for a probationary period of 36 months. From the first permit issuance that got I got a little happy with the erasing there. So it's a 3-year probationary permit and it starts when it's issued. After the probationary period, a permit holder may apply for one additional permit. It originally said per year, but nobody liked that. So one additional permit, as long as there have been no revocations or denials of renewal of any permit held by the permit holder within the preceding 24 months.
And that would be an additional permit on another property.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. So you can Airbnb, and then to make that perfectly clear, I added no more than 2 permits may be held by any individual or organization.
Right.
That language needs to be
Absolutely.
properly corrected
Yeah.
by council, but to make it perfectly clear, in the town of Tuxedo, you can own 2 short-term rentals.
And that's it.
And, you know, and that's it.
I agree.
You
That
can-
was one of my comments.
Right.
I didn't like this. Every year you can apply for
Yeah.
one. I mean, you're gonna end up with 20 or something.
I'm gonna own the whole town, I'm gonna change the name. Okay, we good so
Yeah.
far?
Yep.
All right, D on this one, it's a lot of text, but this is the section that talks about HOAs and that sort of thing. And the reason I bring this up is Ken made a comment, which you can read if you want, or I will, which basically went to the question of, well, if an HOA is looking at this and 51% of the members, you know, how is this determined? And I think it goes to local control, but the second part of that comment was also, and if I live in the Woodlands and the Woodlands says you can't do it and I sue them, who's responsible for fighting the lawsuit? And I think the answer to that is not the town, because that's not a town matter. But again, I defer to the magic screen.
Yeah, that's not a town matter. We don't enforce the HOA rules. The HOA enforces their own rules.
But I don't know if I misunderstood your comment.
I'm looking back over my notes. I think it might be helpful just to read letter D.
All right.
Private restrictions on short-term rentals. The applicant shall provide with the application copies of any applicable homeowners or condominium association bylaws or rules and any other applicable private conditions, covenants, or restrictions, including lake rights. If a proposed short-term rental home property is subject to such conditions, covenants, or restrictions, then correspondence from the association or other entity responsible for their enforcement is required, period, excuse me.
Yeah, no, sorry, that was the word I grabbed to make the comment.
The correspondence shall include specific conditions that determine whether the proposed short-term rental home use is allowed. Upon receipt of an application, the building inspector shall forward such correspondence to the town attorney, who shall review the restrictions and advise the building inspector on whether there are any legal restrictions preventing issuance of the permit, and in which case the building inspector shall deny the permit. The town of Tuxedo shall not be bound by any private conditions, covenants, or restrictions upon the subject parcel. Any private limitations may be enforced against the property owner through appropriate civil action. I don't know, one of the first things that pops into my mind is, is the town going to be saddled with all kinds of legal actions determining these kind of things, And how does the applicant cover those expenses? Kind of like when we have building department reviews, that the applicant is responsible for some of these costs.
There is going to be an application fee, the amount of which we have to determine. We certainly could have something similar to like the tax escrow or where if your application is going to, hey,
Complicated.
It's right, I'm in Tuxedo Farms, and we can say, oh, all right, good. Plop down another
Just
number here.
if I could just clarify something, those specific to those last 2 sentences. What those sentences do is the following. The first sentence, the town shall not be bound by, that prevents any homeowners association from suing the town for failure to enforce or recognize its conditions should the HOA interpret its correspondence differently than the town attorney. So that's saying that you can't sue the town if the town attorney says it's okay and you think it's not. And the second sentence provides that if the HOA wants to sue the property owner to enforce its restrictions, it can through civil action. That the permit doesn't prevent that.
Okay. Before we go
So
too much,
those two provisions are designed to prevent the town from getting in the middle of a dispute and having to incur expense.
just a procedural note. I'm sure none of us expected to get through this in one evening, right? So
I did, but
you did?
I'm an engineer and I don't have a wife, so it's
Okay.
okay.
Well, I certainly didn't.
Okay, no, so
And
when people,
We're basically on page 2.
Uh-huh.
Why I'm just trying to manage our time, because we have another discussion item, and I think what we all agreed to a few weeks ago was to try to manage these discussions so that they move forward, but don't overly burden the board to try to wrestle through.
are you saying you would like to stop now?
No, but I wish ahead of time we kind of looked at our time and just said,
Yeah,
I think we started this
There's some
around
pages where there's
8:05.
hardly anything at all.
Yeah, but, so.
No, it's just procedures.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So then I would suggest, let's get, we've already sort of mentioned managers, which is chapter 5.
Let's go through chapter.
Let's go to
5.
chapter 5 and then we can stop there because then we're getting into operational stuff. We're starting to get into some of the other,
Cars.
contentious items, yes.
Okay.
all right?
And also for those, someone raised the question, can they comment now? And I hopefully respectfully said no, but that might not have been interpreted as that. We welcome you to submit your comments specific to this document, which will be shared on our website. Marissa, is that how we might be able to distribute this?
Howard, is there any reason not to share this draft for people to make comments? Beside the flood of email that we'll get?
Yeah, no, the only hesitancy I have in sharing it prematurely is not everybody may recognize that this is just a draft for your ongoing review. And some members of the public may perceive it as something you're advocating and react adversely to that. And that's why it's better to always put something out in public that you've already looked at and thought about and say, yeah, we think this is, something that we're seriously contemplating, this language and these concepts. But to put it out until you've reached that point.
Okay, so if I'm understanding you, Howard, basically we'd continue through this process. People could take notes along the way if they're following us. They certainly have access to this recording. And, they could follow along at home, either live or through a recording. They could submit comments to us for consideration, and ultimately that will happen at a public hearing.
Right.
I'm going to be rude. I'm going to be rude to interrupt for 1 second. I'm sorry. I know we're not allowed to comment, but some of us have an easier time understanding things when they're written. And you can watermark a document with draft behind it, so it's very clear and covers the entire document. And I don't think that would be something that would be misinterpreted. I apologize for interrupting. Just wanted to get that out.
I'm sending the code enforcement officer to the house right now. No, just joking.
It's okay. I'll have a conversation with him too.
All right, well, I'll take that up with our town attorney, but we're gonna continue with designated manager required. How about that?
Sounds good. All right, designated required. So I'm just gonna start at the beginning of this because if we jump into the middle, it won't make any sense. The permit holder shall serve as manager for the short-term rental, except that the permit holder may designate.
And then there are
there
four
are-
numbers here.
There are 4 items here. The first is an immediate family member of the permit holder to serve as manager. Immediate family member includes a person's parent, spouse, sibling, step-parent, step children, and their children's spouses. It needs to be an adult, but that's the first one. There's not much, there
Well,
were no
that's-
comments on
That's a
that.
legitimate point to say, 18 or 21 years of age or older. That's when it gets.
Okay, so, children, adults, children.
And in New York, is that 18 or 21?
I don't know. We can.
I say 21.
All right. 21 plus, good. The second is an individual with an active real estate license from the state of New York to serve as a manager, which basically means you can hire a realtor to do all this paperwork and stuff for you. Then there were two others that were more contentious. I'm going to skip to 4, which is an adult to serve as a temporary manager for up to 45 days in a 12-month period. Everybody crossed this out. I mean, I think this is the, I'm going on vacation for the summer, I'm hiring somebody to be the manager. The other one which is actually number 3, a non-transient occupant of the lot containing the short-term rental who resides on the lot as the occupant's principal residence. And a number of people crossed this out, but I'm going to argue for this one. This is to say, if I have I've got a large lot in Arden or wherever there are large lots, and there's a caretaker's house permitted on the property, and I short-term rental the main house, I can have the caretaker who
person's on-
lives there all the
is on
time
premises.
be the manager.
Sounds
Didn't
reasonable.
didn't we say, let's see, where did it go? Something about you could rent out a building on your property as long as you're living in the
If they're-
main house as the principal, as your principal residence. Did
No,
it
it
say
doesn't
that
say the
somewhere?
main house. It does say that if there are multiple
Buildings.
residences on a property,
Where do we say that?
it's up at the beginning in eligibility. 4A.
Okay.
For lots containing more than one structure utilized as dwellings, one structure may be permitted as a short-term rental where the other structure is the permanent residence of the permit holder, occupied on a non-transient basis. Doesn't specify if there's a big house and a little house, which is which.
Right, but it says that you can rent out one as long as the other is the permanent residence of the permit holder.
Yes.
So I'm
The
trying to
permit
figure out
holder
how
is,
that.
the permit holder is different from the
caretaker.
The permit holder is different from a person who lives on the property on a non-transient basis, or could be.
Right, but, so I'm just trying to figure out how that eligibility, section A, goes with, number 3 that you want to put back.
Because it's designating
This
that.
is designating who the manager
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, but you're saying, okay, so you're saying you can designate a non-transient occupant of the lot,
Who resides on the lot.
Who resides.
resides on the lot, but then over here, you can rent out one structure as long as the permit holder lives in the other building on a permanent basis. Which is,
Yeah, I think
Right,
it's
unless-
one of them is
unless
the
you have-
owner, the other one is a person who's a caretaker.
Right, but you could have more than 2 buildings on your lot and still
Yeah.
need this. This is for a lot that has multiple dwellings.
Well,
It doesn't say a lot that has 2 dwellings.
it's also
Okay.
conceivable under the language you're looking at for somebody, for a person to own a lot that has 2 buildings on it. One is rented to a tenant under a yearly lease, and the other is rented as a short-term rental. The yearly,
right,
the
Okay.
yearly lease tenant could theoretically be the manager of the short-term rental.
okay, then maybe we have to rewrite the eligibility section A? Because first of all, there can, if you can't have more than 2 buildings on the lot, right? You can only rent out one, as long as you're living in the other? Isn't that, or maybe
No, that's essentially what A says.
okay.
What it
so-
says is that if there's more than one dwelling,
Right,
and we keep thinking that means 2, but if there's more than one dwelling, you
Mm-hmm.
can use one as a short-term rental, so long as you live in the other one.
as long as the permit holder, the
Right.
owner,
And there's only one of these short-term edifices, buildings per lot, no matter whether you have 50 on there or 2 or 3.
Exactly.
Only one
Only one.
can be.
Right.
But
So,
it doesn't
what-
say that there couldn't be other legal residences and the caretaker lived in one of them.
Right, and that's what the word designate means, like, the owner can say, you who live here all the time can be the caretaker, I'm designating you to be.
Manager.
The
But
manager,
to your
right?
point, there does seem to be a tension between these 2 sections.
the 2 sections don't go, because it says one structure may be permitted as a short-term rental where the other structure, single, is the permanent residence of the
Okay.
permit holder occupied.
But that permanent resident could be a renter.
It says.
No, because
it's
it says it has to be permit
That's not what
holder.
it says. It says where the other structure, so there's,
Do we actually have
One
many
that
lots
is-
like this?
excuse
in
me,
the
there is
town?
one structure that is being rented and the other structure, single.
She's going back.
I'm going back to eligibility.
oh,
I'm just
sorry.
saying
No,
that
you're right.
that
There's
paragraph
a-
does not
there's-
go with,
Oh, yeah, yep.
so we have to decide which it is.
We have to, or adjust one or the other.
But right now, they don't.
One other thing I just want to point out, it says in section 5, designated manager, and it says, the permit hold, sorry, on page,
This one, A?
yep. It says the permit holder shall serve as manager of the short-term rental, except that the permit holder may designate. I'd want to know what that designated process is, not just, oh, I called them last night and I designated you as the manager. You know, there has to be a formal process that isn't so fluid, that wherever the original permit was filed, I guess with the town clerk, that you can't just all of a sudden say,
Okay, I'll see that and I'll raise you to B1. So
B1.
we move on to the next section.
all right,
But, and we'll see if this answers your
my concern.
concern.
All righty.
All right? We're out of who can be a manager. Management responsibilities. You got to execute the following responsibilities. Notify the town building department and the immediate neighbors of any designation of an individual as a manager under this section, including a statement of the manager's tenure, residential and business address, telephone number, and notify same of any change in the manager's address or telephone numbers. And you did make a comment that said, which I clarified, how is this notification supposed to happen? How long do they have to do it? The procedure needs to be better defined.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like we'd have to create forms that would be part of the,
There's gonna be files.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The next responsibility is to be accessible to guests, neighbors in the town or county agencies at any time that the short-term rental is being leased for transient occupancy. For the purposes of this section, accessible means to be able to answer the telephone at all times, being able to be physically present at the short-term rental within 2 hours following a request by a guest, a neighbor within 500 feet, or a town or county agency, and having an office or residence within 90 driving miles. And to this section can also raise the question, and what happens if they don't show up?
Well, that would
paraphrase.
go to, they're on a probation for.
Right, that would
It
go,
would
that would be a,
It would be a
yeah,
violation.
that would be a violation, right?
That doesn't help the people who are being annoyed, but okay,
No.
wonderful.
But
Well-
a number of violations would means that the person eventually will lose their permit, not be able to rent it out anymore. I mean, it might help, not help the person that night, but it'll help the person
it'll-
that's going forward if this person keeps doing
But
that.
this is,
Right, I understand it, but it also says at all times, so, you know, somebody could just want to be annoying and be calling this person, 3 o'clock in the morning.
I mean,
You have to answer the phone.
the police go both directions.
Yeah.
All right,
It's,
and then
looks good on paper.
Well, the rules.
Doesn't
they
seem-
okay.
reality to me. but
All right,
okay.
and then, the other things were not questioned, ensure compliance with health regulations and other rules and enforce the policies and collect the fees.
So I also commented, who does the enforcement,
I think
In
it's.
Los
outside.
Angeles, it says the police do that.
This is, this
That's
falls
the
under,
tuxedo rule?
well, we can decide, but this falls under basically purview of the building inspector, most of this stuff.
Yeah, noise violations are the noise violations, and those types of disturbances of the peace are police violations.
Yes.
But having too many people in a house or a person in the house is not right. Right? It's not if you have a illegal bed and breakfast or whatever
And if you have it,
Airbnb, and that's a building violation, not a police violation?
yes. And if there's criminal activity ongoing,
Right.
that's a police matter. If there is a illegal occupation happening, that starts out as a building department matter. And to be honest, the reason we're going through this process and coming up with this set of rules is right now it's a building department matter, but the only rule that we have is short-term rental isn't listed in the list of permitted uses, therefore you can't do it. And that's very weak on itself because, well, Airbnbs are a common and typical use for a house at this point. And also, as was pointed out in some previous meetings,
The person's.
short-term rental is residential, so it's
Right.
still not, it
And
may
also,
fall under
the
residential.
particular,
use.
one particular person that had an issue, he said, oh, they're my family.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, how you can prove that or not, once they're gone, you don't know who they are.
The only thing is, once they're gone, it's a two-day, three-day rental, gone. Then what happens? Oh, he's gone, it's okay, we go to the next guy. Oh, he's gone, we go
Right.
to the next guy.
That's
Well,
why we
That's
have-
why. if
We need this.
But if we have this series of regulations, if you're in violation with the regulation, and we'll get to that another evening,
They're not-
A, you're not gonna get your permit issued again, or B, it can be revoked.
So they revoke the permit and they do it anyway, then it becomes a criminal.
Then,
Then it becomes criminal.
well, I don't know, yeah, it starts out being civil.
Howard's gonna opine.
I couldn't hear it.
Bill?
Never mind.
The question is, when does this change from, if I'm running an illegal, short-term rental and I
Operating
ignore the
without a permit.
building official, when do I go to jail? When does it become criminal?
Well, that depends on the penalties that you impose under this law. Every time there's a permit violation, there can be a risk of jail, although it's not normally the case, but that certainly is a possibility. You're certainly not going to charge somebody with a violation for one time and seek a jail penalty. But if they violate their permit a number of times, the town has the opportunity to seek more serious enforcement, and B, the easy one is to revoke the permit.
And that doesn't work.
And then if they continue to do it without a permit, then the town can get an injunction to prevent their use, because we have on our books a clear regulatory framework for allowing these uses under permitted conditions. And this property owner in question has violated the permit conditions, and therefore either their permit was revoked or their permit was not renewed. So you'll have a predicate for getting a court to permanently enjoin them from ever doing it again.
Full enforcement,
Yeah, always.
which
Yeah.
One step at a time. All right,
All right.
I think we should put a pin in this for now.
Yep.
And let's also contemplate whether we need to do a special workshop as opposed to do this at meetings. I'll let people contemplate that between now and next time.
Sure. We could dig into it deeper and faster, I think.
Maybe.
But
In a
maybe.
special meeting, yeah.
I mean, this is a very serious matter, and we want to try to get it right. And also, to the points of presenting it to the public, something that at least we've taken our best stab at hashing out between 5 people before we invite 3,600 people to opine on it.
Yes.
All right. To be continued. So we stopped at operational requirements.
Yes, we'll pick it up with
Doesn't
section
mean you
6.
can't gain additional ideas about anything previous, but the idea is to keep moving forward before we go backwards too much.
Yep.
All right. All right, Robert Dolbaum,
Thank you, sir.
run for the hills, pal. Thank you. Carrie, I'm wondering why you would punish yourself to continue. Oh, we actually do an investment policy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
She's
thank
gotta
you.
stay for this.
All right. There's some rhyme to your insanity. Okay, all right. We're moving to the investment policy. Hopefully I have this actually with me. I think I do.
Well, right now, do you want to go into the investment policy itself, or do you want to just go over what's in the packet? Let's just start.
I thought we were gonna review the policy, but,
Oh, I wasn't prepared to do that. I was going to just report on my conversations with Chase and.
well, we could do that too, but we've never really discussed the actual policy. And
Okay. That,
that doesn't seem
I
to
could
be
pull
here.
that up.
So, but I'm not trying to dictate how.
Well,
it should
I'm
be.
gonna say that, so, we set the Wayback Machine for several meetings.
Yeah,
We started talking about investment policy.
yeah.
And Michelle suggested that there were changes that were gonna be necessary to the investment policy in order to start to do some new, to work, it started out with NY class, but, or other alternates.
Right, okay, so, yeah, sure, that'd be great.
So,
So what I thought, okay, so our investment policy is from 1994. And you want me to send that to you so you can?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
so hold that thought. Have the rules changed, have the governing rules changed since 1994, Howard?
Some have.
There's-
Michelle, if you know the answer to that
There's,
question.
well,
Yeah, some
I
have.
sent, I had asked the state comptroller's office to send us
I know,
their guidelines. And so there's a little bit, now municipalities are allowed to invest in certain commercial paper issuing entities.
Okay.
So what additional options for investment have been added, is that basically?
But the main one is just commercial paper. And
So we have to amend the policy to allow
to
that as well?
include that, yes.
Okay.
And that would be the main thing. So, obviously, the whole investment policy needs to be updated because
Well, the
of the
banks listed
names
there don't
and
even
the,
exist
yeah, yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
Oh, so, yeah, granted, but beyond that sort of bookkeeping stuff, are there other changes that need to be made?
I would say mostly just commercial paper. And then, so here, if you go, what page is this? Page 5, do you have, the first is, what the bank names are and all of that. Page 5 is permitted investments. Here we are. Okay, perfect. Time deposits, basically, certificates of deposits, obligations in the United States of America.
Is it possible to zoom in a little bit on that?
Okay.
I knew you could do it for this. I'm sorry, Michelle, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
No, you were
So-
doing a good job reading. I just couldn't see it.
Okay. And then there's certain municipal district obligations that we can, like school district notes and bonds and things like that, that we could invest in. Public authorities, like our favorite DASNY, which stands for the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York. Public housing authorities, certain public entities like that, obligations that they issue, bonds, notes.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I'm not sure in what order we want to make comments. The first thing that comes to my mind with those kind of investments is the liquidity and, how long you want to tie yourself up in some of these things. And I'll be the first one to confess that I'm no investment guru,
So,
but obviously liquidity is an important concept in town investment.
well, I think that's why we have to sit down and look at our cash flow. But so as far as obligations that have been added by the state comptroller, as I said, it's a certain commercial paper issuing entities.
Okay.
Okay? And then New York Class, which is that organization, does purchase some commercial paper. So they make sure that they follow the state comptroller's list of eligible obligations.
Do we have to add them specifically then to this?
I don't think so, because unless Howard thinks differently, I think.
Yeah, I think you would add a cooperative.
Okay, yeah, because
purchasing.
that's.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's
Cooperative.
a new category under the controller's rules. So it's a
Okay.
cooperative purchasing group.
Yes,
for
because
financial-
NY Class is, the C stands for cooperative, so that's part of their mnemonic.
Okay, so
So-
it would be NY Class or whatever their competition is.
Or,
Yes,
yeah,
that's,
it wouldn't be just them, it would be that type of, a money manager.
Is that sort of like a mutual fund for,
But that has to
Institutions?
follow, you can't be like Vanguard or Fidelity
Right,
unless,
right.
unless those firms decide to set up specific mutual funds for municipalities specific to New York rules.
okay,
Because New York rules are more strict than other states as far as what municipalities can invest in. So taking this comptroller's edition of commercial paper, and we'll add the cooperative. I had some good discussions with Betsy Davis at Chase. Now, she can help us with the the certificates of deposits, the CDs. I also spoke with Andrew Gerard, who is in their asset management group. Now, Howard questioned whether we a municipality can set up a brokerage account. What Andrew Gerard at Chase does for municipalities is they set up a brokerage account, but only to buy eligible securities. So you can buy treasury bills, and you could buy this certain list of commercial paper entities. He said that right now, Chase has these brokerage accounts set up with municipalities. He said 97% of the money that municipalities invest in are treasury bills. They don't even bother with this commercial, but some do. But 97% invest only in treasury bills in their brokerage accounts. So some of the fees are very interesting and extremely competitive with NY Class. So we could talk about that. So let me just tell you what the rates were a week ago. For treasury bills, a 30-day was 5%, a 2-month was 5.1%, and then the 3-month was around 5.20. Those have actually gone up a little bit this week. To compare with last week's CD rates at Chase, 30 days were 4.55% versus 5% treasury bills. The 2-month CD was 4.6% versus the 5.1% treasury bill, and the 3-month was 4.66%. So you're basically about 50 basis points or 0.5% lower to go into CDs. So those are very comparable with NY Class. Now the difference is obviously these are time deposits; they have maturities. Whereas NY Class, you could pull your money out at any time, like a Fidelity mutual fund, money market fund type of thing. If they did say at NY Class that you have to check with the bank to see that you deal with, to see what kind of management fees they might charge if you go in and out of NY Class back and forth to your direct deposit account.
Were you able,
So,
Michelle, were you able to look into that, that Treasury Direct and their programs?
no, but I will. Okay,
Yeah,
that's,
just-
okay.
Yeah, because they have a bunch of treasury managed accounts and security accounts, and it's designed for government users. So
Okay.
it may be another option to consider.
Well, actually, that could be a really good option, because for us to set up this account with Chase to buy treasury bills, you have to set it up with $5 million. You can, which we would be able to do at the beginning of the year. And they do let you go below 5 million, which, we start the year basically roughly just under 10, and we end the year roughly just under 5. So we could do that. But that might be a little too restrictive, and we may not be comfortable with that kind of commitment. So maybe this Treasury Direct might be a better option for us.
I think it's wonderful that I don't know why this is flashing. There we go. I think it's wonderful that we're examining investment opportunities that are going to improve revenues for the town. But, when I read this investment policy, and just about every blank space of authority just says supervisor, 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 supervisor. And so I'm thinking, this is wonderful to know all these options. So is the intent that we're going to get a list that basically authorizes the supervisor to enact these investments? Because I don't really see a admit I read it maybe twice, and probably the second time at one I opened because I tried to read it while I was getting ready for bed. But again, do you envision the supervisor doing all these investments? Because I think that's like the predecessor. We definitely need a list of viable investment options that everyone would look at and say, those aren't too risky. So yeah, we'll authorize this guy to make some investments. But maybe I missed something in this document that, other than saying the supervisor has the authority to do that. I just want to make sure that we've all read that and seen it in the same way. Because I could see that happening, even when I was contacting Chase about these, just getting our accounts to bear 2.3%. It seemed like there was feedback kind of going, oh, and who made that decision? You know, maybe I read into it. I don't know. I'm just saying that, are we all in agreement that this is what this says, that the supervisor's empowered to make these investments? To me, that's a question of process before you even examine what the potential investments could be.
All right, it does say well, how about this?
Well, that's why I thought we were gonna read it, but
Okay.
maybe that wasn't such a necessary step. I don't know.
No,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry, let me just throw this in, because I think it goes with what you're saying.
What page are we reading from, first of all?
It's page 5, if you could just scroll up a little bit, Marissa, where it's just under permitted. Okay, right there. So it says, as authorized by general municipal law, the town of Tuxedo authorizes the supervisor. So it
Invest
seems
money is
to
not
me-
required for immediate expenditure. Yeah, and then
So
that
it
gives a
seems to
list
me
of
that-
stuff that this person is authorized to invest in. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is that what we want?
Do we, yeah.
Well, the town of
But it
Tuxedo is
sounds like-
us,
Is
right?
us, right.
I mean, the thing is that you're the CFO.
Authorizes
You're
the
the ones
supervisor.
that have to actually sign your name to the thing.
Yes, but I understand what Ken's point is. What this document says on its face is Ken has the ability,
The supervisor,
I'm
forget.
sorry,
Ken.
the supervisor has the ability to make investment decisions for the town. They have essentially given the supervisor power of attorney over investments. If I was the supervisor, I'm not, but if I was the supervisor and I decided that I wanted to take all the money and put it into this account, as long as that account met the rules,
Right.
I could do it.
It's the only
Could be
point.
the dumbest idea on the planet, and
Well,
given my
hopefully the
financial
options
skills
that
might
were
be,
authorized
but-
aren't done.
so I think reading into Ken's point, when we have a resolution to buy something or do a thing where there's a contract that needs to be signed, part of the resolution is authorizing the supervisor to act, to do the thing that the town decided to do.
That's the way I read it.
Okay, I don't think it's necessarily
Well, we
that.
can clarify
And I
it.
think as we're going through the revisions to the policy, we should make that happen, that there should be a decision by the board, and then the supervisor will be, or,
But see, in that scenario, wait, let me finish, because I brought up this point, if I may. What's the difference for the supervisor's position? You know, everything has to be voted on everything. So then you might as well just say the whole town board will have to discuss this and make a decision. And so other than that, you're authorizing the supervisor to make the phone call and be the grunt that just executes things? That doesn't sound right either.
okay,
to me.
okay, good. So then,
Because in in things I've read about what a supervisor, again, not me.
Understood.
I don't think,
it's not about you.
it's not about me, it's about supervisor. And, otherwise, I don't know what the definition of what the supervisor's job is, that how much different is it than a council person? And, everything I've read is like, you're the CFO, you're this, you're that. And so all I'm trying to do is bring this to your attention. Let's not be vague about this, because you can't authorize somebody to do something and then challenge everything that the person needs to do.
Howard, do you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, the supervisor's role is set by the town law, section 29 of the town law. And the supervisor is responsible for most of the financial aspects of the town's existence, and certainly acts as the treasurer and has the care and custody of money belonging to or due to the town from every source. So it is the supervisor's responsibility to deposit these funds. Specifically, within 10 days after the receipt of funds, the supervisor is responsible to deposit and secure in his name as supervisor all monies in the manner provided by Section 10 of the General Municipal Law, which governs investments. But the types of investments that you are allowed to put money in is more governed by the New York State Controller's Office than even the investment policy here that you're looking at from '94. Because this is really just reflecting what the Controller's Office says.
So then it sounds like this actually is written, that this language is proper, and your point.
At least it was in
I understood where
'94.
where you were going with it, not that you were looking for, in any event.
No,
The answer is yes, the
I don't
supervisor-
perceive, just to clarify what my thought is, and I'm trying to just get it out there in the open, not for anything other than, am I interpreting this correctly of what the supervisor is? Because obviously that there's a distinction, otherwise why do you have a supervisor instead of just 5 board members?
Right.
You know, and everything I read here, and what I've read from municipal law, as Howard's pointing out, is, that's what the supervisor is supposed to be doing. And I just wanted to be clear that it sounds to me like every investment doesn't have to come back to the town board. Also, what do we think about this? Otherwise, I think you're handcuffed. You can't do much of anything.
No, I think you're correct. I think that.
But I think it's really important that you have, permissible investments, and I'd even, take a step back and, should our balances be as large as they are? Maybe not, I don't know, but so, as Michelle pointed out, certainly in the beginning of the year, you're gonna have a lot of money. And then obviously liquidity is an important factor because you're gonna need to pay bills along the way.
Right.
And so some of these investment strategies are just not feasible because of the time constraints of cash flow. But anyway, I appreciate actually what you're bringing to the table, Michelle, as to how you can maximize return of investment. But also I just thought we jumped over the document prematurely without really discussing, well, what is it saying here about the authority of the supervisor?
Right.
Yeah, I think where the town board comes in is the governing board of every local government is the one that designates one or more banks or trust companies for the deposit of the public funds. So to the extent you're going to be authorizing, for example, New York Class, that would be a town board action that would authorize the supervisor to utilize that company, that service, for that is an approved depository for the funds.
But any of these things that are on this list, it authorizes the supervisor to utilize any of these tools without a lot of back and forth, it seems to me.
Yes.
What the document says, let me be clear, I didn't write
I
this.
understand, we are speaking in the theoretical.
We're speaking based on a document, not anything. I'm just asking questions about what I read.
I'm
But
hearing,
also the town board could say, for instance, that you you can't deposit more than $1 million into this bank.
Okay, so,
It can set the limits on the amount that goes into a particular bank. Or, deposit institution.
Yeah, along those lines, further down on page 6, kind of in the middle of page 6. Yeah, right there, right. So.
in section 11 or,
Section 10.
okay,
Right above,
Got
the
it.
paragraph above section 11.
all investment and obligations?
Shall be redeemable or payable or redeemable at the option of the town of Tuxedo, okay, the town board, within such times as the proceeds will be needed to meet expenditures for purposes for which the monies were provided. So.
Well, you
I-
interpreted the town of Tuxedo to be the town board. I don't
Correct.
necessarily agree with that, just according to how it's written. But
Well,
Howard could opine upon that. I mean, the town of Tuxedo, if, it's still, in my mind, if the supervisor's empowered
by the town of Tuxedo.
by,
By
yeah,
who? If it's not the.
by
town
this
board.
document, the investment
The town
policy.
of Tuxedo, the supervisor is embodied by state law.
Right.
With the treasurer's powers.
But go ahead, try to make your point. I'm sorry, I'm not.
No,
I'm trying
I'm
to
just, I just interpreted that when throughout the document, when it says the town of Tuxedo,
Yeah, but the town
I-
I think you may be conflating the town of Tuxedo with the town of Tuxedo Town Board.
Right, that's what my point.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the town of Tuxedo Town Board as
Right.
much as the town of Tuxedo acting through the
Supervisor.
town supervisor.
okay, so do we want to clarify this to say the town board?
Well,
Okay, that,
I
guess
see
there's
two
process and then
discuss-
there's.
there are two discussions going on here
Right.
at the same time.
Right, that's what I said.
There is, the first discussion is, what do we need to do with the town of Tuxedo's investment policy? Which was brought up originally, that was your first point that said, hey, I'm looking at this and I see that there are changes that need to be made. And that's the first discussion. And that discussion then will inform the second discussion, which is somebody, you as our
Specific.
expert, have come up with a list of recommendations of things where we should be putting our money.
It seems to be in alignment with the standard.
Right.
Approvable by the controller's office,
Right.
which is the overarching authority that says these are permissible, these aren't.
Right,
Right.
right, that
They're not
drives the
coming
whole
up with-
thing.
You know,
But
I know a guy, you know.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, right now, this document, which is, right, fill in the names, because this is what the controller handed out and said, you need to have an investment policy, you don't have anything better here, fill this out. And on the last page, or wherever it is, there's a list of permissible investments.
Right.
Which needs to be adjusted
that's-
because there are more permissible investments. No, go to the end.
Uh,
Not the classes,
section
go to the
10.
end. Very last page.
Number 9.
Oh, on page 9.
All these yeses.
Okay, yeah,
Go to the very
Okay.
last page.
yeah.
This is the appendix, and this is the part that Howard was touching on, where these are what the town of Tuxedo has decided are permissible vehicles for investment for the supervisor to put money into.
Right. And so
And
the
when-
town board voted on those.
And so, right, and so what we can assume is they voted on those.
I guess.
But back in 94, somebody looked at this list and said, yep, these all look good to me.
Yep.
Now.
Because
that
they
may-
approved, the town board approved the policy.
Right. Now, that may be reasonable. Or we may look at these and saying, investing in traveling flea circuses is a really bad idea.
And,
The
oh,
state
like
may
Howard
allow it,
said, you
we're
set
not
a
gonna.
limit, maybe it's a percentage
Or maybe some of it-
of resources, maybe it's a, like Howard said, a specific dollar amount. Maybe it's a date, no later than this because of liquidity issues or something like that, I don't know. But, yeah,
But I think the first part of this discussion, or the first discussion that needs to be resolved is, what changes are we making to the current, to bring this up to current standards and practices and preferences? And
Well, these are very specific things that may not even be in existence anymore.
right.
Okay.
Understood,
Right.
understood,
So,
but that's my point also.
I go more by the things we were looking at earlier. And I mean, my recommendation would be that we stick right now, at least for a year, try it out, with CDs issued by Chase or Treasury bills.
Well, let me just be clear. When I was listening to what you were saying, none of that raised, fear or concern. I just was concerned that we skipped over the policy before we got into the particulars. But I don't want that to be a handcuff that we, like, the simplest thing was the 2.3% from Chase accounts that were basically already in.
Zero.
That was a no-brainer.
Right.
I mean,
So
and
also.
you can continue your presentation, but all I'd like to, I don't think this was a waste of time. I think if we're not in agreement with this investment policy, to jump into the particulars of an investment, maybe we could all say, look, for now, we could just do that with no harm, no foul. Let's get this money now. But I don't think we really examined the policy. That's
Well,
all.
I agree. I think there are two discussions that we're not going to resolve tonight.
Right.
And the first one is, does the investment policy need to be updated from this document from
94.
Yeah,
94?
absolutely.
So,
I think I would.
So,
love
yes.
this.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that have to be updated
I mean,
to 20 years
besides
from.
bookkeeping, but is it enough to take
30
this,
years ago.
photocopy it with all of the filled in blanks, white it out and fill them in again? Or do we want to do more than that?
And I think you stated earlier, Jay, that this probably was a boilerplate thing from the comptroller's office. Do they have an updated boilerplate?
Right, I was just gonna say that.
That may very
If
well
the
be the
comptroller's
place
office
to
might have
start.
one that's.
They do.
Yeah.
I'm just emailing it to you all right now.
Okay,
Oh,
perfect. So
thank
that
you.
sounds like a great place to start. That's one task that we have to complete. The second task that we have to complete is to say, okay, now what are we gonna do with our money?
Right. And some of them, I think as Michelle was pointing out, are, excuse me, if I say anything, it's just my memory just didn't lock in on anything. But you mentioned 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, these percentages. I'm pretty sure we could find money that would fit any of those timeframes. And, well, yeah, this certainly 30, this certainly 60, this, and why not get it, if-
Yeah, that's why I was hoping we could
So,
move forward. My recommendation is to start out with CDs, Treasury bills.
and I think those are already, I'm sure these are already in that list.
They are.
So then you could,
So then what we need,
It doesn't mean we have to invest in the African Bank or
right,
something,
no,
right.
that's not what I'm saying.
No,
African Development
no,
Bank.
But then what we need,
Michelle and I were talking about something, we left you out for a second.
that's okay.
No, nothing.
I'm used to that. But what I'm saying is then back to, okay, we need to move this discussion from a discussion to an action item. So then we need a statement that says a proposal. And we're looking to you, Michelle, because this is where you're the expert, right? To say, okay, we need to take this much money from the A fund and this much money from the B fund, or whichever the right funds are, and we should take this $2 million and do this with it. I'm making up numbers.
Right.
But whatever that is, but that needs to be something where you can bring that to the rest of us, explain why it's a good idea, so we can go, okay, that makes sense.
But if this is our policy, and those are one of the permissible investments, I'd take it back to where I was trying to illuminate before, the supervisor, which currently is me,
Yes.
could do that now anyway. I don't need to come and ask pretty please. It's an authorized.
No, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm just saying that for illustrative purposes. I'm
Absolutely.
not saying that I would
But
go
no, you're
around
absolutely
and
right.
just
And
do whatever I felt.
You can do, you're authorized to do what you think best. And, again, not talking about you,
Right.
but any sensible supervisor will use the abilities of everyone around.
And I guess that's why it's a 2-year term, because if the person is that nutty.
Well,
vote for
can I
somebody
just
else.
make a recommendation?
Yes,
I'm
please.
trying to satisfy what you all want. But, yeah, so my recommendation is for right now, we focus just on treasuries and CDs. And as I think I said in an email last week, that once that decision has been made, that, you, Carrie, and I sit down, and maybe Andrew Arias, I don't know, and just figure out sort of cash flow, what makes sense. We have like 6 or 8 different accounts. Do we need to segregate some for more liquidity than others? Maybe some can go into a 1-year CD, who knows? But we don't know that. But as far as the actual investment vehicles, my suggestion is let's start with that. And if we want to put some in NY class, we could for the pure liquidity piece. That's not going to be tied up to a maturity.
Could we do this as a workshop for the rest of us to learn? I mean, you have this expertise, but, it would behoove us to understand why we're doing this.
I think Howard wants to opine, but
I was just gonna say, what I just sent you was the local government management guide for investing and
Yes.
protecting public funds.
Mhm.
And Appendix B has a model policy that updates the one you're looking at from 94.
Okay.
There's also a cash flow analysis schedule there, which is rather simple, but as a whole, the management guide will really inform all of the board members in the subject matter pretty simply and clearly. So
that sounds like our next reading assignment
Well,
between now and
it's-
the next meeting.
It's really interesting. The scope is exactly the same as 94. Yeah, I mean, we could look at it side, maybe we need to like print it out and look at the 94 versus this. Some of it is exactly the same.
Okay.
Because look at here, I'm gonna read to you the new
Let's-
one.
let's
The
let me
primary
read it.
objectives of the local
No,
government.
but I see what you're saying, yeah.
So,
So I'm just looking at, it starts scope, objective, delegation of authority.
yeah,
Then it goes to prudence, diversification, internal controls.
yep, and it has,
Yep, it's
A
not
lot
all that
of
much
the-
different. I could see that.
Well, wouldn't expect it to be much different, which is fine.
so we'll just look at it side by side. And, or maybe we just print this out and adopt this,
So maybe there really aren't all that many changes, if any.
right?
We can identify. So listen, we still have business to take care of, and it's 9:35.
So how about this? How about, can we decide, we'll have a workshop to talk about this, but, also what I don't understand, and I think we need to sit down with Carrie, is, cash flow in all our different accounts, what each account is sort of used for, how much liquidity is needed in each account, and how much is just sitting there.
Right, but can we do that as a workshop, like the way that we
Well,
did?
some of that work needs to just be done ahead of time. I mean, that's just a simple listing of accounts, balances, and in general, why do we have 8 accounts and not 3? So all I'm
Some of-
saying is that could be done and shared with the board, because we don't have that many right now. I mean, we're not invested in pretty much anything other than these Chase accounts. There aren't really any investments. And so the long lists that are there, are just not activated. Nobody's been doing that for many years, as far as I can tell.
If
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a time where interests are good. We should,
Well, certainly things have changed. I mean, yeah, in the past few years, we were down to 0 or 1%, so it was kind of like,
Why bother?
yeah, there wasn't all that much rationale. But now there clearly is, and we have taken action, and but at the most riskless investments, because they're just our chase accounts and guaranteed interest of 2.3%, But yeah, it's certainly time. I think I guess all I would say is I just wanted us, I thought our objective was to read this first and then look at your suggestions for investment.
Okay.
And that's pretty much my only point of the whole night is, I was just kind of like, guys, are you sure you read this? Because it's saying, I think as Howard's saying, the supervisor has this authority, but that's not even granted necessarily by the town board, but by state law
Right.
and the controllers. But I just think everybody needs to understand that. So in the future, as the supervisor takes action, it's not misperceived that whoever that person is acted irresponsibly or without authority. That needs to be understood, I think.
And maybe a process including, Carrie or, in that position and
So,
the auditor, has to be included in there as well as wherever it says the town of Tuxedo. I think we could specify that.
you could,
about
let's
a month ago-
ponder that and, okay, sorry.
No, I'm
finish
sorry,
your
a
thought.
month ago, it was brought up that the village of Tuxedo Park was looking at NY class, and should we be looking at NY class? And that's why I investigated the other alternatives to NY class. That's why I was presenting that tonight.
And all useful. To me, it was just the sequencing of discussion,
so what is,
To
what are
me,
the
I
next
think you
steps
first
for
needed to
this?
understand
What
the
are the next
policy.
steps?
So
And when are the next steps? That's what we need to know.
can we sit down with Carrie and go over?
Well, first of all, who's we? It's not
Okay.
gonna be all of us.
No, say you, Carrie, Ken, myself. Can we sit down and kind of just go through the accounts and what we need them for? I mean, do some accounts have to stay super liquid? Can some be invested longer term? And figure that out.
I'll commit to working with Carrie and Betsy Davis to make sure I understand all of, I believe, 8 accounts. And there's some vestige accounts in there that seem,
There's escrows.
right. So we can
Right.
clarify that.
So do you,
Very
so do you want me to involved with this or no?
Sure, but I don't think that's a big task just to delineate these account numbers and what the historical use and especially the ones about the court, that's pretty obvious, and obviously the one that's controlled by the town clerk.
Right. Michelle had already requested all the statements so that we could see that, and in doing so, I'll let you know which account is for what and what we hold it.
Yeah.
What the reason is that it's a separate account. Okay.
That doesn't sound like a big powwow.
Yeah, presumably some accounts have disbursements every month from them. Others
Right.
Oh, yeah.
may not have disbursements for some period of time. And that's really what you're looking for as well.
Yeah, accounts that have money coming in, going out, especially like court.
So what are we doing
so-
with the investment policy document?
So we could certainly, as I suggest, we look at it side by side. As I'm glancing at it, and there's not that much difference. I mean, the wording changes a little bit.
I can do that
But-
with you. We can read it side by side and make sure there's no,
Okay,
what are
let's
the
do that side
discrepancies,
by
if
side.
any. It's
And
only
then,
9 pages,
Yeah, that's easy to do.
and
So
one of
I'll
them
sit
is a
down with
list.
you.
And
So
then you
we'll do
can
that.
provide a prices of that to the rest of the town board members so that we can know what it is.
Right.
Because it sounds like the goal of that discussion is in the next relatively short period of time,
Next meeting.
adopting a updated investment policy for the town.
With, well, new names and contacts and everything. Yeah.
Right, so, there's the, correct.
And then for us to have an understanding of why we're doing what we're doing.
Well, I think that
You know.
Yeah, what were you?
pamphlet, whatever, that Howard just sent
But I
to
know,
us.
I mean town-specific, like, for us to understand town-specific, why we're making the decisions that we're making. Right? Why,
If it's
no,
not
like,
just reading, if it's not just filling in the boxes on the boilerplate. yes.
right, I mean, so like like, I trust you, because you know about this stuff, but I don't, and I like to learn. And so, like, if, you know, for us to understand, like, people come and ask us stuff like that, and for me to understand, like, why are we investing here or there, or why are we not touching this, or why, you know, that kind of nitty gritty, I don't know.
So there's, I mean, there are some interesting things we could invest in, right? But I mean, my suggestion is we just start with Chase
I don't even
CDs
mean
and
like,
treasury
yes,
bills.
right, but also like,
And
what
work our
monies,
way-
why are we deciding to put certain amount of money here and certain amount of money here and certain amount of money here? Like, I want to understand why you made that decision so we can learn and continue to make.
Well, I mean, the biggest
If we get
factors are
elected again.
liquidity, when do you need this money by, you know,
Right.
interest rate and the security of the investment, you know? Is it FDIC insured? You know, what's the risk? And most of these kind of investments, that's why reading this controller's office, advisory, whatever they're calling this pamphlet, just like
Yeah, well,
these
definitely
ones.
read
I
that,
mean,
yes.
they're not gonna let you make crazy.
Right, right, no, I don't mean
And-
that,
and
I
it
just
will
mean like,
actually
I want to
articulate the
understand.
I'm sure
sort of
it will
like, you know,
articulate that
our
strategy.
own, you know, house of, you know, money that we can invest in, why we're doing it. I'm not a wealthy
I
person and I haven't had a chance, I mean, I just do my mutual fund that gets taken out of my paycheck. And that's about the extent of my investments generally, you know, so
So
I
can we
don't
all commit
understand.
to reading what Howard just
Yeah.
shared with us, and you and I are gonna compare
Yeah.
these two
We'll
documents?
just compare.
And I'll work with Carrie to
update.
get this list of the
Right,
8
right.
accounts that we have. I'll supply you with that, no problem.
But back to the investment policy document. Good, we have a committee, you're gonna review it, you're gonna make recommendations for where there are choices, right? That this list of things, maybe they shouldn't all say yes, I understand it's a new list, that's not my,
Page 9, see how much that changed.
well,
Yeah,
that's
let's
not, you
see.
know, but whatever, the equivalent of the page 9. And so of the 17 choices on the new page 9, it's the recommendation of the committee that we only approve 1, 3, 6, and 12. And if
Probably
you're
would
gonna-
start with the safest,
Understood.
least controversial.
I
Good,
think we
but-
forget this page, we go back to page 5.
I absolutely disagree. This is the page that the supervisor is going to use to guide their decisions about where they're gonna put the money. And if there are reasons why, as a board who are adopting this document, we want to limit the choices of the supervisor to certain kinds of investments, we should do that. And we're looking to you as the expert to make those recommendations. But I think it's sort of what Maria was saying, if we're recommending only certain options, it's reasonable to say, and this is why.
Right.
Or, right? Or if the answer is, we think these are all great ideas, we want to use all of them, okay, that's an answer too, but. So that at the next meeting, if that's what we're going to do, we can have a short, actionable discussion about approving this new document.
I could do that.
Right.
All right,
So we're not,
should
so
we
we're
move
not.
on?
Well, gotta make sure we know where we're going.
I just want to make sure that I understand what you're asking me to do, because I need to know that information that you said you're going to work on with Carrie before I can make any kind of
Sure,
recommendation.
absolutely.
So,
It's not a big list. There's 8 accounts. A
exactly.
couple of them are controlled by the court, one by Marissa. You know, it's pretty obvious what they're used for, you know, and so, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
And,
you know,
and Betsy Davis could fill in any blanks. You've been
yeah, Betsy
communicating
Davis
with her.
would be more than happy to come and talk to whoever, or maybe even set up a workshop if you'd like, to discuss. Yeah,
But I'm
FDIC
gonna be frank, what kind of threw me a curveball is that you started dealing with Betsy Davis. And it just kind of, no, I'm just, this is meant to be, it just
What?
made me
That
think,
was-
what's the supervisor's role in this? And that
there
comes
was
down
a-
to this policy.
Okay, there was a meeting about a month ago when I was asked, I could go back and look at the recording. I interpreted that I was asked to look into NY class,
Okay.
okay? And I thought, when I looked into NY class and I looked at what were eligible securities for us to invest in, that in order to be able to give a proper report to the board on NY class, that I should compare it to other eligible securities. And that's why I called Betsy to see what are the rates. That's all.
Okay, but
And,
again, it
you know.
just takes me back to,
I mean, how could I have make any recommendation?
we had agreed that we were gonna review the investment policy.
Right,
And again, this is not meant to be some big controversial statement. We all needed to understand what the investment policy says and what it authorizes the supervisor to do, what the town board authorizes as eligible securities, as it says right there in Appendix A. And once we all understood that, then we're considering particular investments. Because I think to Jay's point, that's what is critical, that the supervisor has a list of authorized eligible securities, and that it's not perceived that every transaction is negotiated by the town board. I think that's an important point. Me
no,
personally.
and part of my investigation at NY class, I sent everybody the updated list from the comptroller's office of eligible securities. About 3 weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay. So in that list, the main difference was, as I said before, certain entities' commercial paper.
So you and I could look at that list, and it's gotta be in sync with that page 9, and it didn't look like there was a page 9 in what you were just.
No,
Now,
I think,
Can I say something?
Sure.
This page 9 that you're looking at is not what you think it is.
Okay.
The title is really confusing here. This is really a list of, it's a schedule of eligible securities for the purposes of collateralizing deposits and investments in excess of FDIC coverage. It's not
that
a
makes
list.
a lot of sense.
It's
Okay.
not a list of permitted investments.
Okay.
The permitted investments are in that document that Appendix B, I emailed you. Okay, in that document. And in there, you'll see how this schedule is made clearer.
Okay.
Okay, that makes so much sense because,
This list, it says, is for purposes of illustration only. Governing boards, in the exercise of their prudent discretion, must determine which types of eligible securities authorized by law to list as permitted. And it's to list as permitted for purposes of collateralizing deposits in institutions where there isn't FDIC coverage or sufficient FDIC coverage.
yeah, and now Howard, I wanted to clarify that with Betsy Davis at Chase as well. She told me that, and we can look at it, that monthly, we get a collateral statement
Right.
that says what Chase invested in
To
to
collateralize.
collateralize our accounts above the 250,000 FDIC insurance,
Right.
okay?
So now they're sending you their list. What you want to make sure is that you are comfortable with that list. Because that list that they're sending you becomes your Schedule A,
Right, exactly, okay, perfect,
So,
assuming you're comfortable with it.
right.
Because if you're not comfortable with them, you'll tell them, and they'll have to get more of what you are comfortable with. For example, they may have 50% of it covered by government obligations and 50% covered by something else. And you're not comfortable with the something else, so they have to get 100% of government obligations to collateralize the investment.
So we can look at those collateral statements that, does Betsy send them to you, or where do they go?
Nobody was on she didn't have a contact for the collateral statements, so beginning next month, both Ken and Marissa will receive them.
Okay. Can we get a current one, just so
I can
between
request it
now
from her.
and
Yeah, I'll
next-
request it from her.
our next meeting, we can
Sure.
review it? Okay, so now I want to be clear, since obviously I wasn't clear before. I thought you wanted me to investigate NY class and the comptroller's list of eligible securities and what else.
Sounds
we
like
could
you
invest
did,
in.
and that will be
That's all.
useful.
Okay,
Sure.
so that's what I thought you wanted me to do, as well as this investment policy.
Right.
Now, so I just want to be clear, for the next meeting, Carrie, you and I are gonna sit down, go through the collateral statements, go through the accounts, see which accounts need more liquidity than others.
We could talk offline.
Okay, I just
right,
wanna be
but no,
clear.
what we said
Okay.
was that for the next meeting, we were gonna be looking at having something resembling a draft for a updated investment policy. And it
Yes,
sounds an awful lot
May
like,
not change it much
as,
at all.
it may not change, but it sounds an awful lot like in '94, whoever did this exercise took the boilerplate sheet and said yes to everything, which may not be the best choice
for the collateralized.
for everything.
Okay.
For any place that choices were going to be made, they said, thank you, I'll have one of each. Now, that's fine, but if we're going to have a policy, and if we're going to pretend that that policy is somehow more than just saying yes to all the boxes, we need to have that.
Well, this seems to be what the bank uses as collateral for the amounts over 250,000 seems to be the most, not contentious, but worthy of further investigation.
I like that.
This list, right here.
Sure, whatever, yes.
All right, so homework for us is to read the
comptroller?
investment policy from the comptroller,
It's not that big.
whatever,
Yeah.
and then, you guys will
I'll get,
look at
work with Carrie
what
on,
we have
on the
here,
bank account
and then we'll
clarity.
be ready to talk about both
think so.
things.
Yeah.
right?
And with the work that Michelle did, seems like we could tease out a few easy to understand investments that I don't think any of us will go, ooh, what's that? I mean, you're talking CDs and,
I mean, the thing is, I don't know if you want to think about this now or approve it now, but there are maturities that are a month at 5%.
Right.
So
Yeah,
why not go for that like now?
kind of like what that's what I was just trying to say in my own version of English.
Could we approve that? Do we
We don't
need?
have to. approve
Okay, we
it.
don't
Ken
have
can
to.
Just
do
Ken
what
can
it
decide
feels
that,
like,
but-
because he's the supervisor.
I just want to make
That's-
sure
Big part.
that you are okay with moving forward without updating the investment policy first.
I think
You're
we have
saying-
already, this has been the
Okay.
investment policy of record.
Okay.
Since
The investment policy of
1994.
record, we haven't, so.
Actually, when you think about it, we approved it in the reorg.
Yeah,
So,
We've never not approved it. This is the investment policy.
Yeah.
We can change it if we want.
Okay.
There are two things going on. Again, the first is a statement that was made that we need to update the investment policy, made by one Michelle Lindsay. Great, we need to update the investment policy. We trust you as the expert in these matters to give us recommendations on how we should update this. Then there's another question. Is our money where it should be right now under the old investment policy and the new investment policy under an investment policy that says I want as much money as possible? Any of the above. And that is a question that can also be answered, and the supervisor is empowered to move the money around.
So we could do it, we don't
do
need
it-
to wait till the next
He
meeting.
can do it when he
Okay.
goes home. He can
Right.
get on his cell phone and move the accounts around.
But you gotta convince me.
Right.
But
Absolutely, that's part of the rule here.
that's the rule.
That's right. I can only make those
And right
decisions,
now-
and that's just the way it
He can
is.
invest in anything because we said yes to everything. There are two things going on there.
Well, we're not investing in this. We're not, with this list. Just to
We
be
are,
clear.
we could.
The bank is to
Well,
collateralize. our
right now,
investments.
CDs are permitted under your existing investment policy.
Right, and treasury bills, yeah.
Right. So
Okay,
you could do that.
I think I
too.
have a pathway forward, and
Okay.
we can clarify it. We need to close the business that's still outstanding here. We still have supervisors update, town board updates. Hopefully, people can do those in a timely fashion. If you got a book you want to write, well, save it to the publishing company, I'm hoping. We did department updates. I will send Mary and Marissa my supervisor's update. I think I could read it in about a minute, so I'm going to do that. Interviews for full-time police officers. 2 of the police officer candidates are in the final hiring stages. An additional candidate, Savino Citriniti, has been hired and was appointed earlier this meeting. His starting date is July 31st. And also updated you about Michael Tierney. Traffic agents, 6 seasonal traffic agents have been added to the Tuxedo Municipal Civil Service roster. Candidates are being identified and screened by OC Human Resources. These agents will work directly for Tuxedo PD to improve traffic control on Route 17A, Long Meadow Road, Bramertown Road, and any intersection or location that our police supervisors identify. All expenses related to this detail will be covered under our contract with Ren Fair Entertainment. Tuxedo Train Station renovation. A contract has been awarded to TAM Enterprises of Goshen. A pre-construction meeting is scheduled for Thursday, July 13th with Sean Hoffman, town engineer, and myself, and representatives from TAM. This project will restore the iconic building to its 2009 renovated magnificence. Tuxedo LDC, site visits to 3 grantee locations, Augusta Properties, Carlin Realty, Tuxedo Historical Society, were conducted on Tuesday, June 27th by Irene DeNaro, John Bagno, and myself. It was determined that all 3 met the criteria for receiving the second grant disbursement. The projects are making great progress. Tuxedo Chase checking accounts. The town of Tuxedo's checking accounts are in the process of being converted to interest-bearing accounts yielding 2.3% interest. This will be effective August 1st, 2023. The torrential storm's aftermath. I toured several neighborhoods in Tuxedo today and found our highway department staff diligently cleaning storm drains to remove debris and obstructions. I checked in with several residents in the hamlet and East Village, and all reported minor problems. I'm sure not everyone fared that well. Our sewer plant received a flow that far exceeded the normal expectations. And last, identifying a contractor to reline the sewer lines and repair 350-plus manholes. Efforts continue to identify a contractor who specializes in the relining of sewer lines and manholes that feed the new sewer plant. 3 companies are being considered who have the necessary experience and equipment needed to restore our century-plus old system that is made up of a variety of pipe widths and materials. passing the baton to Deputy Supervisor Jay Reichka.
I have nothing really to add. It's a very technical weekend. We've been through it already.
Okay. Michelle Lindsay.
Okay, last week, we had a meeting with the MTA to discuss their latest plan for a streetlight crossing at Route 17 and East Village Road, which would then obviously connect with one of the entrances to Tuxedo Park. So this, Deirdre and I had talked with Senator Skoufis about this. He's following it very closely. So in that meeting were Rob Dolbaum, Deirdre, Maria, Howard, and I. And so we're sending our notes to the MTA. They were very interested in incorporating our input, and they will come back to us with the revised plan, which we will present to the town at a future town board meeting. And as part of those discussions, we presented the interest of Senator Skoufis to fund a pocket park. We suggested incorporating a pocket park between the railroad and Route 17, just north of the train station where we have the holiday tree, creche, and menorah. We will meet with landscape architects who design such types of public places for initial ideas that can be incorporated into the MTA plan. So we will present those ideas when we present the revised MTA plan. New York State Department of Transportation on July 20th, Deirdre and I are going to meet with the DOT to discuss a possible road diet, complete streets, sidewalks, and the crosswalk that we've discussed at Hospital Road. Tuxedo LDC, I've reached out to Tuxedo Park Library, the Ambulance Corps, the Lorde Group, Tuxedo Hudson, and Red J Bar to submit applications for grants. And I think that I've also presented the idea to the LDC board to think of ways to engage small business owners in small projects to beautify the Hamlet business district. Such small projects could be something as simple as exterior painting and new awnings with a coordinated look.
Thank you.
And I actually just share all the recreation was my main work this 2 weeks, and so I share already, so.
Great.
You guys all know.
I'd like to reclaim a piece of my time.
Sure.
And just, I have a concern. I saw a copy, which I got through the back door of the MTA presentation, which is a very technical and very carefully thought out 5-corner plus pedestrians plus train access signalized plan, which is great. I think that it is a great idea that we're presenting, the town is presenting our experience and ideas for improving the project to the MTA. I'm not so sanguine about finding out what the town has said they want when the new plan is presented. I think it's reasonable for the recommendations to be presented ahead of time so that we can make sure it's actually what we all agree is what the town wants.
I totally agree with you. I asked for this to be put on the agenda, and I was told that it wasn't going to be on the agenda as a discussion item. My thought being that if we put it on the agenda as a discussion item, then everybody's ideas on the town board could be discussed and incorporated. But since that's, I mean, if you would like to, I certainly would like to.
We can put
That
on
was-
the agenda, we can, at the very least, you're going to be creating a list of recommendations that you're going to be sending to the MTA that you could send around.
Yes,
for-
oh, absolutely.
for some sort of, review and comment before you send it to the MTA.
Absolutely, right? I mean,
Well-
Maria, you got my notes and Deirdre's notes, and we sent them to you for your notes, and
Howard's trying to say
Rob, we sent them to Rob for his comments and to Howard.
Yeah, just so you're clear, what happened at the meeting was the MTA presented their initial thoughts on this design, which focused from their perspective on eliminating that roadway or that driveway that runs parallel to the railroad tracks, north-south, into the parking lot. And we pointed out to them that they didn't, it became clear they didn't have a traffic count to determine how many cars actually use that, and what the impact is going to be on the traffic when it has to go out to 17 and then turn back in at the south end. And so that issue alone, I think, gave them pause to realize that they needed to go back to the drawing board, at least for purposes of analysis, to get a better understanding of the actual flow there.
I'm sure that the comments are good. I just, if they're being presented as the town's comments, the town should have a chance to, as the board's comments, the board should have a chance to look at them.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Well,
So-
but, I mean, it would, but fine. So let's start, if if.
I just want to respond to your point about a discussion item. We are at 10:07 and we barely dented the 2 discussion items that we had. And that was with people being prepared for the discussion items. So it's not just a matter of semantics as to what's a discussion item. First thing would be you reported on a meeting, and first of all, you get town board agreement that this is something we're going to discuss at a next meeting, and here's the background that you would need in order to discuss it. Otherwise, it really is just you presenting your experience at a meeting. Okay, I'm not really clear how that's a discussion item. So, I mean, at some point, we got to decide, what are we going to discuss and try to bring to fruition? And it can't just be an extensive list that one council person submits as, these are all the things I want to see discussion for. It's just not practical,
and the thing
and
is-
we're not prepared for it
Right,
either.
and one of the things that it still felt to me, like Howard said, this was a preliminary presentation. They kind of wanted local, our knowledge of how this road works. Like Howard said, they didn't know like hardly any cars ever go there or whatever. But I think that it's not something, I mean, if they said, oh, well, now we gotta go back and rethink this based on that information of our experience with that particular area, the clogging, how it's hard to, there's so short distance between the railroad and 17, and you don't want a car to get stuck in there, not being able to move one way or another, or whatever, things like that. Those kinds of things. I mean, it seems to me we're not in a hurry because they're not going to do this project tomorrow. So I think that we could take our time and read what they wrote, and then read, and then bring it as a discussion item in the future.
My point was just simply,
we're
in
not in
order
a
for
hurry
it to
for
be a
that.
discussion item, I think we've been trying to make sure that, like you were asking about a workshop, there's something we all agreed to we were going to prepare for an actual discussion.
I mean, we're not in a hurry to get it done now, because they're not, this is like the very preliminary stage for them. So we're going to be able to go back and, think about it and.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have to send it to them today or anything.
No, of course not.
Because they're
but-
still in the initial process, so.
I just thought if we had, since you were on the conversation, we presented a lot of information to them about how different roads are used.
Right.
they hadn't even taken into consideration pedestrians.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, but I think that,
Streetlights.
like, I don't know about you guys, but I am, this is really late. This is really late. So I think that, I mean, what I'm saying is that I think we can definitely look over all this stuff and then have it to be a discussion item for the future.
Anything can.
That's fine, but we have to have something to discuss, is Ken's point. I'd also like to bring up another point or question of something that you said, which is that you're going to be working with designers to come up with concepts for a pocket park. Designers cost money.
Well, if we decide to move forward, yeah.
You said we're gonna be talking with designers to develop a plan for a pocket park. Those are the words that came out of your
Okay,
mouth.
so,
So my question is, what's it gonna cost, and who's agreed that we want a pocket park?
I asked for this to be a discussion item. Do we want a pocket park? Because Senator Skoufis would like to fund one. We have applied, or we are getting money from the Orange County Department of Tourism, $4,999.
Is that this grant?
That this grant that
Oh, okay.
you're just
No,
throwing an
sure.
application for?
No,
Okay.
no. The one we have been getting every year,
Have we got
4,000.
it?
We've been awarded it,
Okay, good.
okay? In our application, we had thought that we would use it for, and to refresh your memory, the application said we would use it for a digital library of places for filming and things like that. And as one use, and another plein air type event as another use, or tourism use. We have applied, and we will hear soon if we can use that money this year instead of the digital library to have a design created by a landscape architect who designs public parks, which we
Who's
would
the
then.
we who applied?
Right, that's what he's saying, Michelle, is like, it's not good for any of us individually to say, we're gonna do this without us
Well,
agreeing.
that's why
to
I
it.
wanted it to be a discussion item.
But this is the first we're hearing about it.
Well, because I
so
was
it could-
told it couldn't be on the agenda.
Because we already had it filmed.
So what I want is an email that says, this is the thing, not here's 27 things that we might want to talk about, but this is a thing to discuss with backup.
That's what I said, but I
This is
didn't
the
bother
first
the,
time- This is the first time
I
hearing that
sent
we're
it
trying
last
to
week.
revise a
it.
grant.
I said, I don't know, I'll look for the stupid email and I'll resend it to you. I sent it as items for discussion as part of the agenda. And I explained what the item was gonna be. I was told no, so I
This
didn't
is what you sent
bother.
out on Friday?
Well,
I
you
don't
weren't
know.
told no.
What?
I asked
You know
you
what?
to.
I'm trying to move this damn town forward. And
Okay.
I'm just gonna not talk anymore because I'm so frustrated with trying to move forward on anything. I will try to find this email that I sent you last week, items for discussion. I don't know where it was.
No, you did. You
I sent
you
it.
said but I did respond to you, Michelle. Don't tell
Yes,
me I didn't
I
respond.
know,
to you.
and you said, so I
I
didn't
said,
bother.
bring it up as part of your,
Update.
right, which you just did. I mean, did you really, this is an open
But-
question. I mean, we've had 2 discussion items that we all agreed that we were gonna, and look at how much time we spent. I mean, how much more could we possibly do tonight? Another discussion? I mean, it's
Well-
just not physically possible. We have accommodated a lot of these discussions. And look, for the interest of all of our sanity, we need to end this meeting with finishing the business that we have to absolutely, I'm saying the town board updates are over at this point. And can we please move to approval of the minutes and the vouchers?
Yeah, I didn't have internet access earlier, Marissa, so I did have one thing I wanted to change. And that was, I did not vote in favor of closing the public hearing. I was remote, so you probably didn't realize that. Okay. No, I'll just say no. I voted against it.
I'll take that. And then I put to approve the minutes of June 24th, should be the 26th.
Oh.
And you got my comments? I think you said yes, but I.
So I'd like to make a motion, ask for a second to accept the minutes of the regular bi-monthly town board meeting held on June 24th, 2023. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Maria. I believe everyone has communicated any edits or additions. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Vouchers. Below are vouchers totaling $5,000 or greater. Probably one that several people asked me about. How much does it cost to pave the roads in Laurel Ridge? Well, the answer is $388,217. There was a payment on the Freightliner, payment number 2 of 7 for $28,057. And the approved purchase of the truck that we just dealt with tonight for $91,082. That's the F-550 with the plow and the spreader. So I'm going to make a motion, ask for a second, that the following vouchers haven't been audited by the town board or hereby approved for payment. Claims number 201-292-1805 through 201-292-1865. I've made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Michelle Lindsay. All in favor?
I have one question. What is the tannin system?
A clack metered tannin system, which I already asked about, is a additional portion of the water treatment system at the highway garage. It's not tannin, it's tannin, as in the chemical that's in pine, oak trees and other
Oh, that kind of
tannic
tannin.
acid.
Okay.
It's another pollutant that needs to be removed from the water system. When it was too much iron, the excess iron reacts with the tannin, and so it's not an issue.
Okay.
And clack metered is somehow about how it works.
Okay. Then my other question is, just general, I know that Andrew Arias was gonna come and give us sort of a year-to-date and monthly report. I'm curious how the highway paving and all fits into the budget for the year. And if he's going to come, I know he was gonna come a few meetings ago and then we canceled that. So
Well,
if he could
for
come.
audit requirements, he said he wasn't prepared. He's still asking Carrie for documentation from 5 years ago. So, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, exactly. So, big wow. You could pose those questions, but obviously, I'm not gonna have those answers on the tip.
No, I wasn't asking for an answer, I was just saying, if we could get our year-to-date versus budget.
That's what
Carrie,
encouraging happens.
since Michael Hammett, since that we paid for that system with ARPA, is any time that we have to pay him for changes, is that something that gets put under ARPA? Since-
It wasn't put under ARPA, so,
The original system, I think,
the
Maria,
original system was.
Right.
This piece was not placed
Okay.
under ARPA.
is your question, can we?
I mean, I just wanted to know whether we did it or not, you know.
We could do it with a budget mod and switch it, for sure, if we wanted to. Not saying we need to, but at an end-of-year analysis, if we didn't spend the money on the Hamlet sewer system, this should be an eligible expense, if
Yeah,
that's the
because it's
point.
related.
Right.
It's just something that we had to do because of that new system that we
Absolutely.
put in.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Public comment, I'll just read, I think Evelyn might even still be here, but thank you for entering this, Marissa. Evelyn called me today. I'm just gonna read what Marissa put here. I guess this is from Evelyn's email. Placing a street gauge in the Ramapo, possibly at the Waste Management Building or attached to the bridge piling at the river. Evelyn shared data on last night's rainfall, showing the Ramapo and Suffern. Tuxedo is not on this grid, and there is no information for you on, or the public when big events occur. The one used by the Ramapo in Suffern, also called Mawa in Suffern, and she gives the USG number, and then a link to how we can monitor water rising and flow in the Ramapo. I'll look into this, Evelyn, and see how we might be able to take advantage of this. So I'm going to just move to the ever popular adjournment. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
I have one piece of business. I'm
Please, go
sorry.
ahead.
Just a piece of housekeeping. Several weeks back, the board approved the purchase of an F-350. Then we went out to bid for this 550. We never did the formal authorization for the purchase of the 550. So is that something we can do tonight so we can keep this moving along?
Yes, Howard, so we,
Wait a minute, I thought we just did that. I mean,
Didn't you
No, we
just buy it?
accepted the,
I thought you just accepted the bid for that tonight, didn't
we
we?
did. Do we need, they never authorized the purchase. Is that accepting the bid sufficient for the purchase?
Yeah, that'll do.
Okay,
They authorized the bid,
yeah,
yes.
thank you.
thank
Yep.
you, Carrie, for trying to keep us on the straight and narrow with this procurement policy, which has been a challenge. So I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 10:20. Do I have a second?
Yes.
I take that as unanimous. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Sometimes government work.
We only
ain't
need
fun.
twice a month, so.